Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast. We like to call it a freak flag, feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. Pretty soon it's going to be a football thrown in there as well because we're getting closer and closer to football season. So we'll talk a lot of football on the show today. As a matter of fact, wrapping up SEC Media Days, I think you'll have the media poll from the SEC media that'll come out today. Also, the preseason All SEC team should come out as well. I don't know if it'll be out as early while we're on the air, but we'll talk a lot about the festivities from SEC Media Days. The last day, Longhorns had two rivals that took center stage at SEC Media Days. So we'll get into that coming up a little bit and talk about Arkansas. We'll talk about the Aggies a little bit and what they showcased at SEC Media Days. Also, Nick Saban. You've heard me talk about some of the things that concern me for Texas, especially on the defensive side of the ball going into this season. But Nick Saban and I agree about one of the potential problematic areas for Texas. We'll get into that when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. We also have audio from an interview that the Longhorns GM, their general manager, Brandon Harris, did with 247 Sports. We'll let you hear some of those cuts coming up here momentarily in this segment after we get done talking about some of the headlines from SEC Media Days. We'll also get in some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. The Texans have started their training camp, so there's a lot coming out. Texans training camp. We'll hear from C.J. Stroud. We'll hear from Will Anderson. Big news from Will Anderson, actually. And big news is he's getting bigger. We'll get into that too coming up and hear from him. Also, what is the five-headed monster that the Texans are going to present? That's what C.J. Stroud's talking about. So we'll dive into that. Rouch rant of the day. We'll talk about why the running back position is dropping in value. I'll give you some data on that. We'll also hear a quote from Nick Saban giving a very, very glowing compliment. I think it was something that was, to me, kind of mind-blowing. He gave a compliment to C.J. Baxter. We meant to get into it yesterday. We didn't. So we'll talk about that. Nick Saban talking a lot about Texas football. And Nick Saban's doing a good job. He's dropping a lot of his opinions about Texas football. So we'll dive into some of those when we get behind the burnt orange curtain. Before we do any of that, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew because he's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. He got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but I'm pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
Oh, man, it's Friday, so it's always a good day on a Friday. Getting ready to enjoy a good weekend, getting ready to enjoy, one of our last weekends before football starts.
It's a beautiful
I
day.
think we have two more weekends with zero football because we get one more week of no football, then we get the Hall of Fame game in a week and a half on Thursday, or 2 weeks or whatever, then Thursday. So we'll have that soon enough, but then there's no football that weekend. But the next weekend preseason starts, that'll roll us into college football, and then the NFL starts, regular season starts. So we're I think 2 weekends away from football.
Say it again.
So
like I said,
that is one of the most positive things I can tell you is you have 2 more weekends. Now, you start letting family and friends know, start, adjusting plans accordingly. Just so people are like, hey, just let you know, you got 2 more weekends and then it's preseason. So I'll be more ample to miss something in preseason, but just letting y'all know, you get your family time in now because football season is coming.
Yeah, everybody understands. America understands. They certainly do, especially if you're a college football fan and an NFL fan. Hell, man, most of your damn week during the football season is pretty much already planned.
Yeah.
Between Monday night football, Thursday night football, you got college football on Saturdays, and you got NFL on Sundays. I mean, half your damn week is planned for football if you're both a college football fan and an NFL fan, which we are.
It's time to start getting all your recipes ready, get your grill ready, everything needs to be ready for once we get to the end of August, because that's when you start having people over again, start watching, have those big Saturdays and Sundays watching all day. It's the way
I don't do that.
I know you don't do that.
I work on Saturdays, and like I said, I like to watch football like I like to watch porn. I don't really want to watch it with a group of people. I don't want to have a party while we're watching the game. I don't want to socialize while I'm watching football. I don't need that. All I need is the game. I'm good. that I can focus on. I don't need you coming to ask me questions about stuff and ask me about the family when I'm watching the game. No, I'm good. I'm watching the game. I don't need to talk
I
while I'm
don't need
watching the
it.
game.
I don't need it.
That's why I don't go to a lot of watch parties. I get invited to them. I don't go.
I don't go to. I don't really need it as much for my team. So if I'm watching Texas, I don't need it. If I'm watching the Texans, I don't really need it. But if I'm just watching football on Saturday and the Texas plays like 7 or if Texas plays the 11 a.m. game, I'll go out afterwards and then I'll watch. Then I will go and watch 3 TVs, 4 TVs worth of games and kind of keep up with everything. I'll go do that. Then just sit and watch.
You're a single man. You got to be out and about. You got to
be out and about.
You got to be socializing.
Yes.
Yeah. See, single man, you got to be out there. I get it. I get that. You know what I mean? I don't have to do that. You know what I mean? I'm done with those days. But I remember those days. It's like, no. I got to be out. You got to be out. You're single. You never know what's going to happen. So you got to put yourself out there.
You got to put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there.
I'll tell you who knows what's happening every day on the show. My co-host, the proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers in Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is a new Rod, father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
I appreciate the intro as always, brother. Of course, we'll have your usual favorites on the show. Topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day. You already know what the musically themed date of the week is, courtesy of my co-host Patrick Davis. That'll be 512 Friday. We'll also get to Off the Record. We got What the Facts, What the Stats. We got Who Said That. So we're loaded on the show today. And like I told you, Brandon Harris did an interview with 247 Sports, and we'll play some of the highlights from the interview. I don't know. Not very often do you see a general manager. I guess general manager in college football is relatively new anyway. But I haven't seen many of them, and there are some now during a lot of interviews. So it's a nice peek behind the curtain for you guys who want to get to know Brandon Harris. And they talk about Texas not being a top 15 recruiting class right now, at least outside the top 10 right now. They ask him if Texas will finish as a top 5 recruiting class. So we'll get into that and dive into it a little bit later on here in this segment. But first, we'll get you caught up on what happened yesterday, last day of SEC Media Days. We'll get into that. But before we do, let's get educated. Let's get informed. Let's get updated on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Los Angeles Clippers and Utah Jazz have agreed to a deal to send Russell Westbrook, a second-round pick swap, in cash to the Jazz in exchange for Chris Dunn, who will receive a new 3-year, $17 million deal with the Clippers. Westbrook is expected to be waived by the Jazz, then signed with the Denver Nuggets, who've been looking to add backcourt and bench depth in the offseason. Westbrook averaged a career-low 11.1 points, 4.5 assists, in 22.5 minutes per game last season, but played some of the best defense of his career, ranking 4th in field goal percentage allowed. In the MLB, the Astros will begin the second half of the season with Hunter Brown taking the mound against the Seattle Mariners tonight. The Astros are currently 1 game behind the Mariners for the lead in the AL West. The Mariners hold the head-to-head tiebreaker with a 5-2 advantage in the head-to-head so far this season. And the Rangers begin their series with the Orioles tonight with Nathan Eovaldi getting the start. It's a big series for the Rangers as they wait for the returns of Dane Dunning, Jacob deGrom, and Josh Young, as a series win could inspire the team to become buyers at the trade deadline, while a series loss could encourage management to sell at the deadline. The Rangers have won 7 of their last 10 before the break and hope to spark a second-half run reminiscent of last season. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. We appreciate those. Okay, let's get to some of the headlines from SEC Media Days yesterday. Texas had 2. Their brand new rivals. All right, rekindling the rivalry with Arkansas, also with Texas A&M. So I first want to get to Sam Pittman, and we got a little bit of audio here to accompany this headline. Yesterday, one of the great lines from Sark, echoing the sentiment of old school Longhorn fans who know that Arkansas rivalry really well. He said that, as a matter of fact, I think we have this audio. Matter of fact, do we have the audio of Sark and his Arkansas quote from yesterday? Yeah, would you please see if you can find that? And I won't even, that way I don't even have to spoil it. Because that'd be great. Okay, so Texas and Arkansas rekindling their rivalry. When Sark was obviously at the SEC Media Days on the stage, he was asked about it, and he made probably one of his best moments at SEC Media Days. He made, do we have it already? He made this remark about the rivalry and the relationship that Arkansas fans have with Longhorn fans.
First of all, I'd like to play better than we played in 2021. We did not play very good in that ball game, and it's a great environment. I jokingly say this, and I feel like when you go to Arkansas, that I think I almost at times feel like they hate Texas more than they like themselves. I mean, that's a real rivalry. That's when you know you're in a real rivalry. And I know so much has been made of us getting to play A&M again. But the fact that we get to play Arkansas again is awesome.
Okay, so there you go. And love the honesty. By the way, it works. I played Arkansas once because we play them every now and then, bowl games, stuff like that, are scheduled in the regular season. We lost to them in '99. Sark, basically every generation gets a little bit of a taste. Remember Charlie Strong and them played them, and that was the borderline erotic one, and they beat them. I think it was that the Texas Bowl or something like that, whatever it is. I had a little piece of them in '99. They beat us. Sark got a little piece. They beat them. Even though Texas is usually a better team or just as good as Arkansas, I'm telling you, hatred is strong. That's Star Wars is based on part of the Force is hate, and the other part is love. I mean, that whole damn series is based on let the hate flow through you. That's the Force, and the Force is strong with Arkansas, the evil side of the Force. It is, man, and it powers them. I'm telling you, it powers them to play at a higher level when they play Texas, which is what happens in rivalries, because you're riding this emotional wave that you usually don't, have access to, or usually you can't tap into just on any weekly basis. And they tap into it when they play Texas, and hatred, I'm telling you, it's worked. So beware, throwing it out there. Okay. But let's get to Sam Pittman's response. Arkansas head coach was asked about, hey, is it true? I mean, do you guys hate Texas more than you like yourselves? Here's Sam Pittman's response.
We hadn't played Texas for years, and when we played them a couple of years back, it was the most excited our fan base has been in a while. So I would say he's probably right. The difference is Texas is certainly a different team than what we played. That was his first year there, and now, obviously he's a great coach, great guy, and got a wonderful football team. But I'm glad that we're going to play them at home again. I don't know if that's fair because they came there 2 years ago, but it's an early morning game. But he's probably correct. You'd have to ask the old hats of Arkansas, but he's probably right.
There you go. So he's probably right. I love that. I love it. I'm not gonna lie to you. That Texas needs to experience that, because they got a little taste of it in 2021, but you're gonna get it again with the Aggies. You're going to get it again in that rivalry. They haven't had these multiple rivals like this. I'm talking about the real rivals, not the one that Texas Tech is trying to manufacture, not the one that Baylor tried to manufacture, not the one that Longhorn fans kind of know exists with Oklahoma State but don't want to really admit it because Mike Gundy's that hell of a coach. Not those. I'm talking about real, deep-rooted, traditional rivalries, and that have long-standing history going back, decades, hell, century. If you're looking at the Texas A&M rivalry, that to me, it's personal. As a matter of fact, we do have a, and I'm gonna send it to Patrick, and actually I just did, and we'll play it for you. But Torian York was his name. He's a linebacker for A&M, and he's a really good player actually. And he was asked about the Texas A&M rivalry, and he basically said that I don't talk to anybody from Texas because it's personal. I don't like them. And he essentially said they didn't recruit me, so I don't like them. They didn't recruit me. I don't like them. And he didn't talk to anybody from Texas. That, when I came out, I had two friends. I played with Teron Woolridge. He was a linebacker that got a scholarship to play at A&M. I played with Keith Joseph in high school. He was a running back that played A&M. So I actually did have friends. I knew guys from the Houston area that went to A&M. So I can't say that I didn't have friends over there. For this young man, you need more of the guys on both sides to feel like that, because the Texas A&M rivalry is more of a sibling rivalry because you do know a lot of people over there. So sometimes it's hard to have the same angst that you have or vitriol that you have with Oklahoma and Arkansas. I always said I think I hated Oklahoma more than I hated A&M. Some people, it was the opposite. They, and hate is competitive hatred. We're not talking about actual hate. But we're talking about just disdain. I had more disdain for them than I did for the Aggies. Like I said, I was almost an Aggie. How can I be that mad at the Aggies when I was almost one myself? And for half these guys on the roster, that's the case. They're recruited by both. They probably narrowed their schools down to, unless one was just really bad, to, both of those schools in their top 5 to top 7 choices. So you can't really truly have a disdain for them or have that competitive hatred if you were almost one of them yourself. And that's the reason that young man, Torian York, dislikes Texas so much is because he literally says they didn't recruit me. That's when it started building up, the hatred. It's like, nah, man, they ain't recruit me. Hell, that's how Oklahoma State and Baylor and Texas Tech, that's how most of their roster started their competitive hatred of Texas. Man, they ain't recruit me. I hate them. Hate them. They ain't recruit me. I'm a good player. It's the initial slap in the face and the insult.
Yeah, that was the Johnny
right?
Manziel thing.
It's thank you. That's probably that might be the most famous example of it. That's at least one of them. Yeah, and
they
he
told me I
openly
could be a
talked.
safety.
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield.
Johnny Manziel they told me I could be a safety.
Yeah. Yep. But at least they told him something. I don't know if they told Baker Mayfield a damn thing. So that's where Baker's extreme hatred also comes from.
But for the record, no one told Baker anything.
I think Baker had like 1 or 2 scholarship, but they weren't like, they weren't
it was like Texas was the odd man out, and the rest of Texas was recruiting him.
I know he was in your backyard. In Baker's mind, as you know,
but he played
Baker's
for OU, and OU didn't recruit him.
Huh? Yeah, he went up there, but he earned his scholarship with Oklahoma. He couldn't even earn a scholarship with Texas Tech, starting as a freshman. Yeah. Texas Tech thought they were too good for Baker. They're like, no, he's just good. Anyway, but no, you're right. You're good about that. But it's just I think for Texas, they got to get used to this type of vitriol. And it's good though. It's good. It's good for all of us. It's good to have multiple rivals. All great football programs, organizations have multiple rivals. They all do. Okay, yeah. I sent you that Torian York sound.
Yeah, I've got it.
You got it? Okay, can we play it? It's quick. It's like 8 seconds. It's not very long.
It's personal. That's all I have to say. It's personal.
What kind of relationship do you have with some guys on the team at Texas?
I don't talk to anybody from Texas because it's that personal to me.
I'm not gonna lie. I like that kid. I like that young man. I'm a fan of Torian. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a fan of Torian York. I don't like nobody over. I don't talk to them dudes. I ain't reaching out on social media. We ain't in the DMs like that. I ain't hitting you up. No, I don't like you, man. You know what I mean? We need more of him on both sides. I understand why I wasn't like that either, but we do. By the time I became a junior, I got it, and then it was like, yo, I can't stand the Yankees. They not like us. They not like us.
Well, no,
not like us.
The reality is the reason you didn't like OU so much is because OU was beating you.
Well, and also I just did. Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma.
That's the thing is, if you beat a team 3 out of 4 years, you probably don't have a lot of hatred for them. If you keep beating them, it's not hard to hate somebody that you keep beating.
You could be right about that. There may be something to that. I just, I know psychologically, it's hard to now kind of walk backwards my hatred.
No, I mean,
for
like,
Oklahoma.
Because you know why you hate the Celtics and the Lakers? Because you keep seeing them hold up trophies. That's why I hate the Celtics Lakers, because you're like, I just watch them celebrate, and I don't like that. So it's a lot easier than if you're watching somebody and they're not really celebrating much. Like, well, it's hard for me I feel bad for you more than I hate you.
No, that's perfectly fair. That's definitely a part of the equation. That's definitely part of it too.
But that's where the Aggies want to be. The Aggies beat us this year. Or the Aggies beat, and all of a sudden that rivalry starts to mean a hell of a lot more. For Texas
I lost to the Aggies once. And they won the Big 12 title in 1998. That last conference title they won, I believe, in football. Last conference title they won, I believe, was in 1998 in the Big 12. So when I came up, Aggies were still hot, man. Aggies were still, they still had the wrecking crew. Now the wrecking crew is long gone. Oh, as a matter of fact, we have sound. There's this Pete Thamel piece of audio I sent you. Speaking of the Aggies, since we should get to the Aggies in a little bit and give you a little bit of inside info on them and what they revealed at SEC Media Days, in addition to Torian York saying it's personal. I don't like them dudes. Don't want to talk to them. Pete Thamel pointed out what Mike Elko believes is going to be the identity of the team and their strength this year. So here is Pete Thamel on the Aggies.
That scripted answer and those bragging rights as well. But Pete, you spoke earlier with Coach Elko. What did he tell you will be the identity of the team in his first year?
Well, he pointed immediately, Victoria, to the defensive line. Texas A&M has one of the most talented groups in the entire country. If they're going to turn things around at A&M, it's going to start there. They took Purdue transfer Nick Score, and he led the Big Ten in sacks last season. He's from nearby Bryan. And then from there, we're going to see if some of these new coach cliches that we hear every time there's a coaching change comes true. There's a new strength coach in Tommy Moffitt. There's more discipline now than there was under Jimbo Fisher, the players told us today. Could that help Shamar Turner? He was second team all SEC last year on the D-line. He gained a bunch of good weight. He slides inside at tackle. And then there's Shamar Stewart. He's a former top 10 recruit in the entire country. He may have the most physical gifts of anyone in that Texas A&M defensive line room. So if they have 3 first-round D-line talents there, you could look for them to make an impact on the Irish and Riley Leonard in that opener.
All right. Now, by the time they get to Texas, who knows what shape that D line is going to be in. But I will say this: Texas opponents, Texas offensive line, they're going to be one of the best offensive lines in the country, and they will be tested this year. Thank God they bring back 4 of their 5 starters.
Yeah.
They got to play Michigan, best D tackle duo in college football, and they got an NFL defensive end too. His name escapes me at the current moment. So Michigan's going to be a hell of a test. Georgia, hell, I was reading Jordan Reed, I believe is his name. He's a draft analyst for ESPN, and he had as his potential number 1 overall pick. He said the number 1 ranked player on his board is defensive end from Georgia, Mikael Williams. No shock there. So they got some freak on the D line, but Georgia is going to be stacked. I wonder about Oklahoma, but remember they did get the kid Dominic Williams from TCU, and they got Trace Armstrong from Oklahoma State. That's 2 veterans who are proving commodities in the Big 12 already. And I think Kentucky's got one of the best D tackles in the country. He's going to be a potential first-round draft pick. Deion Walker is his name, really good player. And then, of course, the Aggies, as you just heard from Pete Thamel, they're going to be loaded on the D-line. So your biggest games of the year, Michigan, Georgia, we'll see what Oklahoma is, but Michigan, Georgia, and definitely A&M. Your O-line is going to be going up against one of the best defensive lines in the country.
Yeah, and we know Venables has a track record on the D-line. So
yeah, exactly. Great point. That's why I said, as long as he got a couple of pieces, which he does, he'll be able to put.
He put a lot in the NFL at Clemson,
and they're deep in the back 7. That's where their stars are. They got 2 All-Americans back there.
Yeah,
basically, in Bowman and Stutzman, so they can do a lot of different things just based on the strengths they have in the back 7 there. So Texas offensive line will be tested. They'll be going up against some really good defensive fronts. Okay, there you go. So, got one more little nugget here from SEC Media Days I think we have to address. The Lane Kiffin sound. Yeah. Lane, I don't know what. Okay, so I didn't know if he was joking at first, but it got serious real quick toward the end here. I thought at first they'd known each other forever and they were just kind of taking jabs at each other. So Lane Kiffin sat down with Paul Feinbaum and they were doing an interview. And apparently Lane Kiffin brought up some of the past criticisms that Paul Feinbaum has had of Lane throughout his career. And listen, everybody has. Look at some of the stuff that Lane Kiffin's done. Of course, everybody has had something that's hot take about Lane Kiffin. But Lane Kiffin, I guess, he logged away the Paul Feinbaum hot takes about him, and here's the kind of what came to be kind of a confrontation between. It went from an interview to a confrontation between Lane Kiffin and Paul Feinbaum.
College game day, you had to make your big splash, and they were watching it because I know the other person in the room that was watching it with them. And you said what a joke I was. I'm the Miley Cyrus of college football coaching, and I should be fired. And they looked at each other, and later that night I was fired.
Yeah. By the way.
So, but hey, look what happened. I would have never gotten to work for Coach Saban. All these other things wouldn't happen. So I appreciate you for helping getting me fired. Thank you.
Look at what you're doing today. You're predicted to go to the play. And look at Miley Cyrus. She's had a nice comeback.
So you're wrong on that. I mean, you put me down with that. So really, I don't really know what you're good at. Like you predicted that Coach Saban was done. That didn't happen. You basically said Miley Cyrus stinks, and she's still going.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's always.
Like I said, it got cringe toward the end there because and by the way, Lane Kiffin's the wild card. By the way, we'll play some sound of you later on because we got sound of Sark. Sark, he was on one of the breakout sessions at SEC Media Days, and I think he was talking about like the culture or something. And somebody asked him a random question, and they asked him about there's a group text that all the SEC coaches on. We heard about this. Gus Malzahn revealed it, and some other coaches, they revealed it at one time that, hey, there's a group text. And now Sark, I believe, is now on the group text. And he made a comment.
This was the ex Saban assistants group text that he was talking about.
Oh, it was
an ex Saban assistant group text, apparently. This is what that's the one he was talking about. So him and Lane are both on that one. But it is apparently the ex-Saban assistant group text.
Oh, I didn't realize there were two groups. I know there's a group text between SEC coaches.
There is that one, but apparently the one your clip you're talking about, it's the ex-Saban assistant coach.
Oh, really?
Group text, which I don't know who's all on that still. I don't know.
Well, Sark basically said he muted it because of Lane Kiffin.
Yes.
He said he had to mute it because of Lane. And the one you're talking about there, Patrick. So I imagine if he's and we heard, I believe it's Eli Drinkwitz, who was asked about the text chain from the SEC coaches and who's most active, and he threw Lane Kiffin out there. Yep. So no, Lane is definitely the wildest on the group text, at least the most active on the group text. So Sark's probably going to end up muting that one too, because
Lane's on all of them.
Lane's on all of them, man. Lane's pretty wild. There you go. So Lane Kiffin, not happy with Paul Feinbaum and some of the things he said about him. But Lane, I mean, come on, man. Lane invites it. Remember Lane? He was going up against, I believe it was Nick Saban, and he had the pregame, get your popcorn ready.
Yeah.
And like grab the popcorn through them. It's like, come on. You are opening yourself up for this type of criticism when you do stuff like that. You know what I mean? Now, if it works and you win games like that after being braggadocious, then everybody will give you your props. But you didn't. And so, he's got he's an antics guy.
Yes.
Which helps him actually in recruiting. People mention him in pop culture references. Like if people know who Lane Kiffin is outside of football, it's because of some of the crazy random stories that he's been and allegations.
The Joey Freshwaters.
Exactly. Like he's a pop culture figure now, and he enjoys that, by the way. He enjoys it. I mean, that's good for him. All right, there you go. So there's some highlights and some of the headlines from the last day of SEC Media Days. Okay, coming back, we'll get into some Texas football conversation, go behind the burnt orange curtain. There's a Brandon Harris interview that we're going to get to, the GM of Texas football. So we'll play some of that. Nick Saban gave a hell of a compliment to CJ Baxter that we have to get to. And speaking of the genius of Nick Saban, talking about Texas, he agrees. One of the areas that I've pointed out several times that I'm concerned about that could be problematic for Texas going into this season, Nick Saban looks at it as the biggest personnel issue for Texas, in his opinion. So we'll talk about that when we come back too, and dive into some other topics, Texas football related. All of those topics and more when we come back. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let's talk about Dr. Eckert and his wonderful team. First of all, I owe them a huge debt of gratitude. I went there for a routine cleaning and checkup during that checkup because they're so thorough. They actually found that my wisdom teeth were growing in sideways. I was on the precipice of a disastrous situation, folks. Could have been extremely problematic, but they acted quickly, made sure that I was comfortable with the process, got the procedure, got it planned, got it scheduled, and had everything done. I was back at work within 2 days. You guys know, don't miss a lot of work. And thanks to Dr. Eckert and his wonderful team, my dental health and dental hygiene have never been better. So for you, whether it's something routine like a cleaning or a checkup, hopefully that's the case, or even it's something extreme like having all your wisdom teeth removed, you're in really good hands with Dr. Greg Eckert. Anytime somebody asks me, do I know a good dentist? I say, no, I don't know a good dentist. I know a great dentist. I know the best dentist in Austin, and it's Dr. U. So it doesn't matter if it's general dentistry, teeth whitening, dentures, or porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it is, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what Dr. Eckert and his team are all about. First time I went into Dr. U's office, actually, it was, I still remember it vividly because I walked in there and there was a woman crying. I thought to myself, see, this is why I don't come to the dentist very often. And then after listening to her give her testimony, she was actually crying tears of joy. Yeah, tears of joy in the dentist's office because Dr. Eckert had given her the smile that she had always wanted. She had never seen her smile look that way. She was always insecure about it. And Dr. Eckert gave her a brand new smile, and she was brought to tears as a result of it. And he can do the same for you. Give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secured to your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You get temporary fixtures first until they complete your permanent smile. You'll smile again with confidence. Eat freely without pain or discomfort. It's a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, or you're insecure about your smile, or you have dentures, or you've been told you need dentures, learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures, a brand new smile in just one day. It's a complimentary consultation, so you got nothing to lose, but so much to gain because a confident smile can truly change your life. And Dr. Eckert wants to change your life for the better. Give him a call, 512-345-3166, 512-345-3166, or visit drueckert.com, drueckert.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation. Go behind the burnt orange curtain here. Brandon Harris, the new general manager of Texas football, he was on with 247 Sports to talk Texas football recruiting and roster construction with them. So I want to play a few pieces of audio actually for you. I thought they were pretty interesting. It's going to give you a chance to get to know Brandon Harris because not a lot of people get to know him. I don't think a lot of people have actually heard Brandon Harris speak before. It's one of the first times he's been on a public platform, especially since he got the job. So the first cut here is, it's kind of a hard hitting question. A lot of Longhorn fans want to know, why is Texas football recruiting right now? Why doesn't it have more momentum? Right? Why is it ranked outside the top 10 right now? Close to the top 15 is where they are in this latest recruiting class. Here is what Brandon Harris to say about why they're not necessarily worried about where they are ranked in the recruiting class.
Yeah, so for us, and I mean, no insults when I say this. I mean, obviously a big fan of 247 Sports, On3, Rivals, and all of those different platforms. But, we believe in our process, which we believe in evaluating our own players and doing the things that we do. And we don't get caught up with outside rankings and what, other, affiliate ranking websites may think of, how we recruit. We evaluate the right players. And when we evaluate the right players, we try to go out and assign them. And, luckily these last 3 years, now going into year 4, we've been pretty fortunate in doing so.
All right, there you go. Saying, hey, the stars and the rankings don't matter as much to them. NIL. He was asked about how NIL has affected Texas's recruiting. And a lot of people believe that Texas is getting outbid potentially in some of these recruiting battles with Oregon and some other schools around the country. Here is what Brandon Harris had to say about Texas's recruiting NIL pitch.
Yeah, for us, and I think Coach has been on record saying this, Coach Sark, we always want kids to sign up to come to the University of Texas for all the right reasons, right? I mean, you talk about a top 10 program, top 5 program, I might add. You talk about a top 5 student education as it relates to public schools. We want to sign the right kids that want to be here for all of the right reasons, how they're going to develop on and off the field. And then, hey, at the end of the day, NIL has now become part of that conversation. And our goal always is just to educate people on NIL and talk about the different opportunities that are afforded to you when you have the opportunity to play at the University of Texas, which is a top 5 program in the country and probably the most recognizable logo. Well, not probably, I know the most recognizable logo in all of college sports. So when all those things align and you feel like this is where you want to be at, we always have said, NIL always makes sense. And we've been pretty fortunate to have a really, really good NIL system that we have here at Texas.
Sounds like he's reiterating that, oh, no, you will have NIL opportunities at Texas. I don't know if they're always going to be the highest bidder or if they necessarily are in. Basically, if they definitely don't want to be in the habit of always beating a number or outbidding whoever the competition is in recruiting. And they're saying that without saying that, right? They're definitely implying that, right? Patrick, it's pretty obvious. They're saying, listen, man, we're not going to be the cash cow here for every player in recruiting trying to get top dollar amounts. We're not going to do that. And as we've talked about, you don't know if the figures are real. Remember, we just had Jay Norvell say that K-State, somebody could have been a rogue booster, collected director, could have been a coach, we have no idea. Could have been a personnel man, offered their starting quarterback $600,000 to leave Colorado State to come to K-State. And you're like, okay, so can I get confirmation? Can I get a Colorado person? Can I get a Kansas State person on the phone to confirm to me?
Is
that
it
No,
and that's because that they come out and they say the number we're looking for is $1 million, and you go, well, we're not paying you.
Well, who's offering million?
And it's I know you're looking for that, but is that and then they're outbidding you. Okay, but you're looking for $1 million and they're outbidding us. Are they bidding $1 million? Because if they are, go there. Have fun. I get it, but and I think that's that fine line a lot of these coaches are having to walk of are you coming here to just make money and you don't care because the minute you get that check, it's over for you. You're done. You got the check, cool. I'm already looking at what school I'm transferring to next because I've already got my check here, so I'm ready to move on and get my next check because I don't need to. I'm not necessarily caring after that. Or are you somebody that goes, no, I want to go in there and prove it and earn it, and I want to get paid, but I want to earn every dollar I make, and I'm going to go in and so if you promise me the right opportunities, and I talk to people there, and everyone's been compensated fairly that has played for the University of Texas, and maybe I feel a little bit better about going there because I know I'll get compensated fairly if I can go in there and produce. I think it's just that line, that fine line you have to walk in this world, but that's why you get a general manager to try and help you with that.
Yeah, I think Texas is basically trying to establish within their culture that you have to earn it. Like you get a base amount kind of when you come in, and then you earn, the extra value in NIL opportunities. I'm not saying that's the right strategy. I'm just saying that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. And it goes back to something I said before. It applies even in the NIL world. There are two types of Texas athletes, right? Yep. Student athletes, the kind that come to play for Texas and the kind that come to play at Texas. And there's a very big difference, right? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Ask not what Texas can do for you, but what can you do for Texas? And a lot of guys coming in, the at Texas guys, they are, hey, what can Texas do for me? What can I get them South by Southwest tickets? Where's my NIL opportunities? Where's my NIL dollars? I'm not mad at these guys. All right. I totally get it. You gotta make sure you maximize the opportunities. But then there are the four Texas guys, and those are your Rojos, and those are your Jay Witts, and those are your guys who they want to leave it better than they found it, and they get NIL opportunities as well. They're cashing in, but their objective and their priorities are, what can I do to help the program?
Yeah.
Not what the program can do. And by the way, you can go from one to the other. I've seen plenty of guys go from at Texas guys, and by the time they're juniors, they're for Texas guys. Yeah. And I've heard, Coach Banks say, we're looking for signs when we in recruiting. And if we don't see those signs, it doesn't matter how talented you are. He said, we probably won't prioritize you. And I think he said it was signs of respect, signs of like that you love, that you live the game. I heard Kelvin Banks, a great quote from Kelvin Banks. We might have to play it later on the show. He said Jake Majors went to an offensive line camp. And an offensive line camp, they had a great saying. They told him, do you like, love, or live football? And you need to decide which one. Yeah. They're all very, very different. Even loving football doesn't mean you live football. Yeah. You can, and that's why people are like, Robert, why don't you go into coaching? Because living football is different from loving football, guys. That's true. I love it. Trust me, to live it, it's a different, I've lived it, and it ain't for everybody. And even as a coach, to live it, you got to know yourself and know your obsessive personality, and know that you may have the wrong priorities. Yeah. If you get that, if I'm that into the game, I know myself too much, and that will become my world. And I don't need that to be my world. That's not healthy. I remember when that was my world. It wasn't healthy at the time. I don't need to be my world again. I need to experience other things in this world. And that is a great quote. And that's kind of what you're looking for, the guys who actually are ready to live it.
Well, yeah. And I
just love it. Love it and live it.
And easy signs you get where, you can have somebody walk in and they both are talking about NIL, but if one walks in asking about NIL and doesn't ask about what schemes you're running, they don't ask about where they're going to be used, and they don't ask about rotation, and they don't ask about your coaching style, and they don't ask about every other step of the game that they need to have, and how and where are our plans, and where do we see each other, where do we, if we don't have that, and then the person who walks in and asks all those questions and is the one who keeps asking about the playbook and asks you about and wants to know everything about it, and then at the end of the day, man, the numbers got to be right, but at the same point, I want to know everything else that's happening. Because I also don't want to go somewhere for an extra 50,000 when I'm, it's 800,000 or 850, and I'm going to throw away every opportunity going forward because I just went for the 50 grand, and now I'm in a scheme I don't play well in, and I'm, with guys I don't want to be around. The coach coaches a different way than I want to be coached, and so all of that. So I think it's easy enough. The number can still be there. NIL is still a part of it, but it's all those other questions and the rest of the meetings. And just walking into a room and, the respect enough of, well, you need a D tackle and I'm a D tackle. So you're going to pay me and I'm going to come here and I'll dominate. Or, all right, let's see what we can do for each other. Very just simple, but not walking in saying, I'm going to hold you guys ransom, which, we don't know how many of those are, but there's some negotiations that we've heard that are a bit more like that, and there's some that you hear that are completely respectful and everything else, and it's just, it depends on person to person, but I think what he's saying there is we're not going to be in that. We're not going to get into the game of we want to load up our roster with every single person, and we'll wash it out later on, and we'll just pay the money, and sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't. We're going to go ahead and try and build the roster the way we want to build it.
Speaking of building a roster, he was also asked about top elements in constructing a roster. What goes into the thought process of building a roster? What are, for you as a personnel man, what are your top objectives? Here is Brandon Harris.
Yeah, for us, the number one thing is we got to evaluate the right talent. It starts there. I think we do a really, really good job in our evaluation process. Then next is you got to recruit. You got to have a right system in place to recruit the best players. And then after that, you got to develop those guys. If you can do those three, in my opinion, components really, really well, you're fortunate, like we were this past April for the draft, to have 11 players drafted. So I think if you continue to have that system in place, the sky's the limit for your program.
Brandon Harris played quarterback, and him and Sark, apparently they bonded because they're both quarterbacks. And so his opinion of quarterbacks probably means a little bit more. So he was asked to give his personal evaluation as a personnel man, his personnel evaluation of Quinn Ewers. Here's what Brandon Harris had to say.
Oh man, like you won't probably find a bigger fan than me on Quinn. Quinn's elite in every sense of the word. Quinn's probably one of the most gifted, passers, quarterbacks I've ever been around. And he's so chill, right? The moment's never too big for him. It's a reason why, our successes continue to go up since he's been here and he's taken over as our quarterback. And obviously he's going into year 3 as a starting quarterback, with all of the, the recognition that he rightfully so deserves. My goal is always to try to be one of the parts of putting, the best talent that we can around him. And I think the sky's the limit. But in terms of the talent, you won't find a better talented quarterback. And, I think he's poised to have an awesome season here in year 3 in our program.
All right. And the last cut here, this is a true false segment they do at the end of the interview, but I thought these 2 true false questions would be 2 that Longhorn football fans would want to hear. So here is Brandon Harris answering the true false question about Texas recruiting class this year.
B, true or false? Texas will finish in the top 5 in the 2025 recruiting rankings.
True. I think we set up, we've always done a good job of finishing really, really well. And ultimately, the season has a lot to do with that. I think we're poised to have a really good season. If we do that, it'll take care of the rest.
B, last one for you. Winning the recruiting signing class in the summertime is way too overblown.
100% true. I think it goes back to that last comment that I just made. Obviously you like momentum and, obviously we'll have a ton of momentum leading into our season. But what I will always say is the season has a lot to do with how you finish in recruiting. If you go out and you play really, really well and you're developing players and players are having an opportunity to play at the next level, I think it takes care of recruiting. And fortunately for us, I think, again, we're going to have a really, really good season. And that's going to, propel us into having another good signing day class that'll, lead us into the future.
All right, there's Brandon Harris, the general manager of Texas football. So a lot of Longhorn fans are concerned about the lack of momentum. He is telling you that essentially Longhorn football is betting on itself. They'll have a strong season, and then everybody will want to jump on the bandwagon after that strong season. That has been the case for them the last couple of years, though. They've been able to finish strong, and that's had a really strong influence on their recruiting class. All right, there you go. All right, so let's get to the break. We'll come back. We'll get into the topic for the big fat poll of the day. We'll also get into the musically themed day of the week. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn.
Back here on the Rodcast on a 512 Friday where we play local music. You can go check out around town this weekend. Go support some local music. This is Mama Hawk. They are playing Saturday at the O4 Center. If you want to check out some Mama Hawk, you can do that there. Play local music for you all show long here. Let's get to the big fat poll today. Text line's open. 512-447-3776 is the poll. Is the text line, and then we'll also post it up on X at the Horn ATX.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on the Horn.
All right, so yesterday we talked about the places you'd be most scared to go on Texas road test this year. You guys gave some answers that, I don't know, Rod and I were a little surprised with. We thought the Aggies were going to win that. It turned out to be Michigan that you were most scared to be at. Arkansas got a lot more votes than we thought they would. We get it. They hate us more than they like themselves. So I get why you maybe say you get scared about that one as well. But I want to go the opposite way. So we're not going to say of distant teams we're playing this year, but I'm going to say overall in the SEC, which road tailgate would you most like to attend in the SEC? Which road team, which other SEC teams tailgate would you say that's a place where I would want to go party at? I think LSU is going to get a lot of votes. Think LSU's up there?
Yeah. LSU's up there.
Ole
we were
Miss.
supposed to go to LSU and we missed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember? COVID screwed us.
That's true.
We're supposed to go to
Ole Miss was one that I think has a very good party reputation, tailgate reputation.
Ole Miss, the Grove. Yeah, the Grove is classic. I've been there. It's a very unique tailgating atmosphere.
I've also thrown in, if you can tell me if there's another one that I'm missing, I have Georgia and Tennessee as my other two. Of the research I did, those were the two that popped up on the most list of where the good tailgates were. Because then it kind of goes into, what people like specifically, and you have some different ones, but those ones consistently popped up in the top 5 of best tailgating spots in the SEC. So which road tailgate would you most like to attend the SEC? If you're going to a road game and you think which one would be the most fun to go to, because you're going to go get the whole experience, and then the fan base and the tailgating and all that could be a lot of fun. Where are you going to go to?
I'm going to take LSU over probably Ole Miss. Man, I wonder if Florida probably is pretty damn good too.
I think Florida, I think Florida could probably be better if they were a better team. I just can't imagine
right now. No, good point. Now, I'm not even considering how good the team is on the program.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about the fan base, the environment, and like the culture of their, their fans. LSU, I know the food's gonna be damn good because they're gonna be cooking some good old Cajun food down there. I know the food's be really good.
Tennessee's got that weird place because they're on the water.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Yeah,
that's why it's a different, unique experience because it's one of the few stadiums that's built like next to a body of water.
Yeah, it's like Baylor Stadium, like the stadium there in Waco. It's like right next to a body of water.
Yeah, but that's Waco water.
I know. You said next to a body of water. I was just giving you an example. That's a Waco.
That's Waco water.
And I agree with you. Actually, I agree. That's actually very different. Very different. No, it's a good question. A really good question. Like I said, we missed out because I was going to go to the LSU game. I think a lot of Longhorn fans were.
Yeah. Because
they are known for having a pretty vibrant tailgating scene. And trust me, I've been to Ole Miss, the Grove. It's legit. It's in Mississippi. I don't like hanging out in Mississippi a lot.
True.
I just every time I go to Mississippi, I have there's a situation that happens in Mississippi that confirms everything that I fear about Mississippi. Every time I go I've been there like 3 times. Every time I go, something weird happens. I'm like, all right, you know what? Mississippi's trying. When Mississippi tries to tell you who Mississippi is, you should believe Mississippi. All right, because I honestly, a lot of the stereotypes about Mississippi are unfortunately true. I don't want them to be true, but my experience tells me they're true. It's real.
Yeah.
And I know Louisiana because my mom and dad are from Louisiana, so I'd be more comfortable there. Mississippi. Like I said, vibrant tailgating scene, but I don't know. Do you want to hang out in Mississippi for that long? Good question there. No, it is. Have you been to Mississippi?
No, I've never been. Never been.
You will have a better time than I did.
For
some obvious reasons.
Yeah. I don't know if I fit in a little better.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't stick out quite as much, but yeah.
I digress, but yeah, just saying. Yeah, but other than that, I did have fun. I thought it was really cool, a great environment. But yeah, okay. There you go. Topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Appreciate that, Patrick. We'll dive into that because I think that's a really good question for because you actually have these iconic kind of tailgating cultures that you're going to now,
Yeah.
as opposed to the Big 12. I'm sure had some of those, but
again, we talked about like
they're not very scenic and picturesque
Yeah.
like the places you're visiting.
And that's what we talked about
the
the stadiums already, about the size of the stadiums going up in the SEC, and that it's just there's a little bit more of football culture where I think in the Big 12 there's still football culture, but there's a lot of sports culture, like where people are fans of the college, but I don't know if it's
college basketball.
Yeah,
Right,
there's some more of that where
culture. Yeah.
in the SEC there's teams like, oh yeah, we have a basketball team too.
They're not too bad.
We got one of them.
Yeah, no, you're right. But it's all about football. No, you're right. I agree with that. And I think like I said, the locales will just be more picturesque. They'll be more scenic than Big 12 locations. That's just the reality of it. So, all right, looking forward to that. We'll talk about the Big Fat Poll today a little bit later on. We come back. We're going to switch gears a little bit. We'll get into some NFL discussion. Texans are into their training camp. So there's some audio from CJ Stroud, from Will Anderson that we'll get to and talk some Texans. We'll also get to that Nick Saban comment that he made about CJ Baxter. And also Nick Saban, great minds think alike. He agrees with something that I have been concerned about with Texas going into the SEC. It's been an area that I brought up with you guys several times, and Nick Saban recently brought it up in his analysis of Texas going into the SEC. So we'll talk about that when we get into Rod's rant of the day. Lots to get into on the show. Don't go anywhere. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. I was actually just listening to the lyrics. 512 Friday. That's when my man Patrick plays jams from local bands and artists. Very talented human beings that you have a chance to see live right here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Bob Schneider.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
It's nice.
Austin. Classic Bob Schneider playing Saturday at Antone's.
I like that. It's a nice jam right there. What's the name of the jam?
Big Blue Sea, one of his bigger hits.
I can see why it's a hit. No doubt about that. Thanks to Patrick. He always broadening my horizons, certainly. Hopefully he's doing the same for you on a 512 Friday. He also does a great job with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, and it is up. Oh, at least, sorry, I don't even know if it's up. I said that. It will be up, I should say, at the X account, the Horn ATX. I promise you that. Patrick, letting people know what the topic is for the big fat poll today.
Patrick is typing in the big fat poll today.
I know. It will be. I'm sorry. I didn't even look. I just said that. I was like, as soon as it was coming out of my mouth, I was like, right, do you know? Do you even look?
It's posting. It's posting right now. It's posting.
You ain't even fact checking. You just said it on there like that. No, that's my faith. I have it. I apologize.
It's posted. It's posted. It's posted. Which road tailgate would you most like to attend in the SEC? That is the question. Which road tailgate would you most like to attend in the SEC? Since we asked about the scariest place, the place that scared you the most this season. Which game scared you the most? True road game scared you the most? We asked you yesterday. I thought we'd stay more positive on a Friday and think of the fun places we may be able to go attend during our time in the SEC. So I thought we'd say
Georgia's good though. I bet Georgia, since they're so dominant over the years, I bet they've taken their tailgating to another level.
Yeah, and
it is.
And it's also I feel like Georgia. There's places where it's going to be like Georgia's one of those places like Texas where there's pockets.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Yeah, from everything I've heard of my friends who've lived there and all that is like depending on where you're at, there's some good. And so in the college area, it might be a little bit, depending on where you're at in there, it could be a fun time of, just a little bit more loose, but you're in a place that I just think it could be fun. And everything you're reading where it is like since they've gotten better and Alabama's up there, but again, Alabama just isn't a nice of a place. I think like Tuscaloosa's okay.
No,
but you read list and like it depends. So Alabama was in the top 5 in like half the list, and then like the bottom 5 in the other half. So
I can see that.
So I think that was a little bit
hit or
miss.
And your preference.
Yeah,
your taste and preference probably. It's probably an acquired taste. I probably would be. Not for everybody. And
I feel like
I can see that.
Yeah, and I feel like if you go there now, there's just too much worry. Too many. From what I know of my friends from Alabama, there's too much worry in the camp right now. They're a little nervous of being so insanely dominant for the last 15 years. Yeah, and now they're like, is it Saban's gone? Daddy Saban's gone?
That's like the narrative that nobody can stop talking about. Yeah. And it's just, no, I can see that. Because I remember, honestly, Longhorn tailgates got like that for a while when Texas was just mediocre and seemed to be stuck in their mediocrity as a program for most of the last decade and a half. The conversations were always the same at the tailgates pretty much, about Texas football, because what else was there to talk about other than them being stuck and mired in mediocrity? You weren't necessarily talking about them ascending or getting better or progressing, because then there's just negative narratives around the program. With Alabama is different, but it might end up being the same thing for the next 2-3 years about can Kalen DeBoer do what Nick Saban did? Can he, reach the heights that Nick Saban did? So no, I get that.
No, and they also
that's part of the tailgating experience too, no doubt.
No, and then I know also Alabama has that, which Texas does not have now, but it's had in years past, where they recruit good quarterbacks, but not the type of quarterback that the fans want. Where the fans want the super dominant best, the Heisman Trophy winner every single year. And so when they get those quarterbacks, they're like, AJ McCarron. No, I don't want AJ McCarron. I want the guy who's going to win the Heisman. You're like, but he's going to win you a national championship. I know, but I need a guy who's better.
They had that though when they got to.
They did, but I can tell you, I hung out with. I have friends there from Alabama. They were never happy, not once.
No, but those are their high level, and I know they had Jalen Hurts there at one time, so that narrative shifted. And I'm not that high on Jalen Milroe as a passing quarterback and an NFL caliber quarterback, but this year, I mean, in the right system, he could be a Heisman. I mean, he probably already is a Heisman candidate, but he could win the Heisman potentially.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see what Kalen DeBoer does with him in that new.
Without Ryan Grubb, remember his offensive coordinator who had been with him ever since his time, way back in the day. before Washington and before Fresno State and before his time in Indiana. He had Grubb with him forever as his assistant and then his offensive coordinator once he became a head coach. So I wonder how that Kalen DeBoer offense is going to look without him, who's now the offensive coordinator for Seattle, I believe, right?
Yes, right. Yeah,
yes.
because that was we talked about
for
him,
Seattle.
them not drafting Penix.
Yes, there you go. We thought that would happen because it seemed natural, but it did not happen. Penix went to the Atlanta Falcons, which is a whole nother story. All right, so big fat poll today. Go check it out. Which road tailgate? I already voted. I voted LSU, which is now leading the poll currently with only a few votes, but at
everybody's
46%.
getting votes. Everybody's getting votes, though.
Everybody's getting votes. I can see why Georgia getting votes. I mean, they've been a dominant force in college football, so you know the tailgating's got to be pretty damn good. You up your tailgating game when you're that damn good. And Ole Miss, they're iconic for the Grove and a very unique tailgating atmosphere. And Tennessee, that I haven't really thought about it, but I bet it's picturesque there in Knoxville. I bet it's beautiful.
The Knoxville, no, yeah, you're next to the water.
I bet it's very scenic there in their tailgating scene. Like not like the Waco Stadium.
Not the Waco
stadium,
water.
Which is the Waco water.
Plus,
which is right there by the water. You said stadiums by the water. I was like, that's the only Big 12 stadium by the water, ain't it?
Probably, but it's also you can't go to a religious school for tailgating.
Oh,
that's not
interesting.
I don't know if that's going to be the place I want to go. I don't want to go there.
Interesting.
I want to go with the heathens, man.
But sometimes, have you dated a FCA chick before? Man, I'm just saying. I'm just, I'm not going there. I'm not going to just say that. But I'm just saying. You can have their things. You can have fun. I know you want to be
but they ain't in public, man.
That's true.
In public,
not in public. Yeah,
different type on your knees, Rod.
You want to be taking shots. You want to be taking shots and out there and hanging out, having a good time. You ain't going. You said the tailgate at BYU ain't going to do. I don't even know if BYU.
No, different type of on your knees in public, Rod.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Okay, that's a good point. I never thought about it that way. Some people at those religious places might get offended. TCU might get offended.
They might get offended.
SMU might get offended. Baylor.
I'm just telling you, I'm gonna hang out with the heathens. That's just me. I'm gonna hang out with the heathens.
I like hanging out with heathens and degenerates. That's mostly my circle anyway. I am myself a degenerate, just of a different variety. So I'm not judging those out there. All right, let's get to it. Let's first, before we dive into some Texans conversation, we got some audio from CJ Stroud, also from Will Anderson. I'm talking about Texans training camp, which has started. So I'm really excited about that because that means football season is very close. I can smell it. It's really close on the horizon. So we'll get to some of that audio and talk NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We'll also get to Rod's rant of the day on the other side, which I'll throw in those Nick Saban comments. Nick Saban commenting on CJ Baxter. Also Nick Saban talking about it. And it was pretty interesting when he started getting into it. The biggest personnel concern in his eyes, in his analysis for Texas going into the SEC this season. So we'll dive into that when we get into Rod's Ranch. But first, let's get updated, informed, and educated on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Los Angeles Clippers and Utah Jazz have agreed to a deal to send Russell Westbrook a second-round pick swap and cash to the Jazz in exchange for Chris Dunn, who will receive a new 3-year, $17 million deal with the Clippers. Westbrook is expected to be waived by the Jazz and then signed with the Denver Nuggets, who have been looking to add backcourt and bench depth in the offseason. Westbrook averaged a career low 11.1 points, 4.5 assists, and 22.5 minutes per game last season, but played some of the best defense of his career, ranking 4th in field goal percentage allowed. In the MLB, the Astros will begin the second half of the season with Hunter Brown taking the mound against the Mariners tonight. The Astros are currently one game behind Seattle for the lead in the AL West. The Mariners hold the head-to-head tiebreaker with a 5-2 advantage in the head-to-head so far this season. And the Rangers begin their series with the Orioles tonight with Nathan Eovaldi getting the start. This is a big series for the Rangers. They wait for the returns of Dane Dunning, Jacob deGrom, and Josh Young, as a series win could inspire them to become buyers at the trade deadline, while a series loss could encourage management to sell at the deadline. The Rangers have won 7 of their last 10 before the break and hope to spark a second-half run reminiscent of last season. That is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the horn headlines. I appreciate those. Let's get right to this audio we got from CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. CJ Stroud, of course, I mean, there's a lot of expectations now for the Texans because of what he achieved and what D'Amico Ryans achieved last season. CJ Stroud, led the NFL in passing yards and touchdown interception ratio as a rookie. First rookie to ever do that. And only 4 quarterbacks have done it in the last 35 years. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, John Elway, the quarterbacks on that very short list. He was 4th in yards per attempt, 5th in average depth of target, passer rating, he was 6th, success rate, 10th, passing first downs, he was 8th. The Jeremy Fowler survey of execs, coaches, and scouts, they ranked him as a top 10 quarterback already. He's a second-year quarterback. He's got the best odds in the last 15 years for a first or a second-year quarterback to win MVP. A lot of expectations on this young man. So a lot of eyes on him too. And by the way, I think he's done a great job. He actually relishes and embraces talking to the media. It's actually something he seems like he enjoys. Yeah. Right? Are you recognizing this too? It seems like he actually enjoys it.
Which is, again, it's one of those crazy parts from before the draft to now, where he was so seemed secluded and away from it because he was not defending himself before the draft, and there was no point where when he was getting dragged through the mud, they didn't send him out.
Cognition tests,
and all, but just everything about it, where they were saying that he was not going to be an effective quarterback, and everything else they said about him. Yep. And he never really came out to defend himself and didn't do a lot of press to turn the narrative around. And now, 1 year in, and he's everywhere.
He's everywhere. You're right. And that was intentional, obviously, because he's at home with the media. He's very comfortable. He's great in front of a camera and great on the microphone. So that must have been David Mulligetta, who I call the Johnny Cochran of NFL agents, the best agent
go to Carolina
in the league. And that's exactly. I think that was him, maneuvering the system and saying, "Hey, no, let your play do your talking. Right now, all you can do is hurt yourself." They want to develop a narrative. Ain't nothing you can do to push against it right now. It is what it is. The scouts, as long as they know the real deal, and the teams, you're good. The narrative with the media and the fans, you can't control that. The cognition test, whether that's BS or not, you'll prove that it's BS. And he did. He basically ended their little industry that they wanted to start. They wanted to replace the Wonder League. Remember, they were replacing the Wonder League. The NFL was going to embrace this new cognition test, and CJ Stroud had the lowest score of the cognition test, and then had the best rookie season ever for a quarterback. And I was like, yeah, your test, that it's no longer valid. We're done with your test. So he ended that. It was the S2 cognition test.
Yeah.
That didn't last very long. And remember, and we got sound of Peyton Manning actually talking about this. He didn't show up to the Manning Passing Academy because and then from then on, there was just, I don't know, he
backed out of it.
Didn't care.
That he backed out of this and all these other
disrespectful and all this kind of stuff. And actually, we'll play that sound later on of Peyton Manning clarifying exactly what happened. But you're right. It was, and then the narrative was that he's a system quarterback and can't play. Remember that?
No Ohio State quarterbacks have ever worked ever in the NFL.
Yeah.
So Ohio State quarterbacks, that's a wash. You can't have that. So it was just one thing after another that put him out that he was never going to be able to succeed.
And he never defended himself.
But the point was, he never came. I mean, there was not a campaign to fight against it, and it feels as if he was told, "You're not dropping past 2."
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about it. You're not dropping past 2.
Don't worry about the media. Don't worry about what they're saying.
Yeah.
They don't matter.
Hey,
they don't know that.
No, you're good.
Let them talk.
And I mean, it is a different world to be trying to be drafted and then being put in the face of the franchise position, which he is now. He has now a little bit more. But you could tell that some of the answers he was given yesterday, at training camp, he was ready for him. He knew what a lot of the questions were, and he was ready in his head. He had prepared. He got the same way we talked about Nick Saban, where you can tell he's worked on it already, being a television personality.
Mm-hmm.
CJ Stroud had worked on, okay, these are the questions they're probably going to ask you about the new additions, so know what you're going to say about the new additions. These are what they're going to ask you about your progress over the offseason. These are what they're going to ask you about the team's the injuries last year. This way, and just have answers for everything.
Yeah, you're right about that. And it's kind of what the guys have to do for SEC Media Days, right?
Yeah.
You gotta, you're going to get asked certain questions. They have that answer ready to go. Have that in the holster ready to go. And he seems like he's a natural at that. Remember, he won that award, by the way, voted on by the media as basically the most basically a kind of congenial personality of all the players that the media has to interview. He won the award for their favorite player to cover. And all of the media and all the NFL, like all the NFL and the media voted him their favorite player to cover because he is kind of an open book and he'll give you an insight and a thoughtful answer. Like it's not just coach speak. And so here, let's get to some of it. Here's CJ Stroud when he was asked about things that he believes, even though he had the greatest rookie season ever for a QB in NFL history, things he can improve on to take his game to the next level.
But also take what the defense gives me. If it's boring and it's a boring play, just stay with the boring stuff and just be efficient with that. So those are all things I can get better at. And, I hope to do that.
Okay. And here's another one about CJ Stroud. He's talking about quarterbacks that he likes to watch. And at the end of this, he gets into the new weapons that they have brought in, which he refers to as the 5-headed monster. Here is CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I mean, I watch a little bit of everybody around the league. I watch Buffalo, I watch the Rams, I watch Minnesota, I watch Kansas City. Lions are a great team to watch offensively. So I learn from everybody. But yeah, I mean, Steph is somebody who definitely can open up your playbook, but we have all of those guys around. He'll say that too, So it's 5-headed monster, So it's definitely super dope to have, just a bunch of options.
5-headed monster, super dope. The 5-headed monster, I'm assuming, is 5-headed Hydra. Is going to be Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz. That's the 5-headed monster.
That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah,
that would be my assumption.
Right? Yeah, I think that's safe.
That's who can play all at the same time.
Yeah, and they're going to play more 11 personnel, even though they didn't last year. They're going to do it this year and put all those guys on the field at the same time. So that's there definitely will be T-shirts, and there will be memes, and there will be gifs of the 5-headed monster. There'll be a 5-headed bull or something.
But if it's a 5-headed monster too, but then where does CJ Stroud's head go?
That's a great point. Like he's not the one. He's the one that tames the monster. Like
is he throwing a ball?
He's
to
like
the 5-headed monster.
He's like Dr. Frankenstein, and then there's the monster.
I got you.
And he's Dr. Frankenstein, the monster. So that's how it is. Like he's gonna be able to control this 5-headed monster.
I gotcha.
He is the one that can sick it on people.
I'm just trying to think of the T-shirt ideas for people.
So so basically have the 5-headed monster and then have him with it on like a leash or something like that, or him with control of it next to it.
Yeah, because you can't put Dalton Schultz on the T-shirt and not CJ Stroud. You're gonna go sell as many.
No, it ain't gonna say that. You gotta have CJ. No, of course, I totally agree. Yeah. The whole point is CJ controls the monster.
Yes,
he is the only one that can control the monster. It's his spirit animal, if you will, this 5-headed monster. It's kind of how I see it. You can do comic books. This thing can go
make it work
very far. All right, here CJ Stroud. Here's that other piece of audio of him being asked about what he can take to the next level. Here is the quarterback, CJ Stroud.
There's a ton of things. Most of the things, I really just like owning the offense more, operation, putting more on my plate. With just like run checks, protection checks, things like that. And really just like everything inside the field, X's and O's can always be better. You can always have better footwork. I want to definitely attack down the field more this year, and, press guys back. And then also take what the defense gives me. If it's boring, and it's a boring play, just stay with the boring stuff and, just be efficient with that. So those are all things I can get better at. And, I hope to do that.
I think what he means at the end there, stick with the boring stuff, is patience. And this is, remember, I told you guys, they're going to play a lot of 2 high safeties against them. Take back those safeties up, put an umbrella on the defense. So that means no deep shots downfield, which is what he's great at, by the way. You maybe argue that he's the best deep vertical passing quarterback in the league. I gave you all the stats earlier this week. There are stats to back that up. And with that, they're going to take that away because it only makes sense. They can take that away. They did to Patrick Mahomes. They did to Josh Allen. They did to Joe Burrow. They're going to do it to him. They do it to young elite quarterbacks, big arm quarterbacks who want to stretch the field. And they force you to exercise patience, taking the underneath route, taking the dump off, taking the check down, taking the very boring, taking the very boring routine play, but doing that, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in one drive. And that's how you march down the field. Honestly, guys, that's Patrick Mahomes football now. Y'all know how boring it is to watch Patrick Mahomes now. Patrick Mahomes is not fun to watch anymore. If y'all watched him lately, it ain't fun to watch anymore, guys. It's boring football watching Patrick Mahomes because they forced him now. They have essentially forced him to be a check down quarterback, to be a check down Charlie. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to take what the defense is giving me. It's something else that he also said. Patrick Mahomes averaged a career low 6.5 air yards per target, guys. 30% of his targets were behind the line of scrimmage. He ain't chunking it down the field no more.
No,
he's not.
They're
The
gonna,
average touchdown pass is less than 7 yards.
Yeah,
he does not throw it downfield anymore.
They're going to try that now this season.
That's why they got Worthy. That's why they got Hollywood Brown. Yeah, they're gonna bring that back. But guys, that's not what he does anymore. If you go look at passes of 10 plus yards downfield, you know how many he averaged per game, Patrick Mahomes last year? 10 passes of 10 plus yards downfield.
And how many of those were to Kelsey? Like
exactly.
8?
Yeah. It was like he's not chunking it downfield a lot, guys. It's pretty much a dink and dunk pass game. That's going to be C.J. Stroud, and that's why he's saying I got to take the boring stuff. Yeah, it's boring. I really won't. Sark had to do it. When Sark first got here, Sark wanted that deep ball. Oh man, he was fiending for it.
Oh yeah,
give me that deep ball, baby. Ooh, that deep ball. He was like Tyrone Biggums, man. He was a crackhead for the deep ball, just chunking it all the damn time. We're like, Sark, stop it. We're not good at it. What are you doing? He lost the Oklahoma State game chunking it with a broke hand quarterback to a broke hand receiver with a whirlwind, like 20-something miles per hour. I was like, what is wrong with you? He was off his rocker a little bit. That was Coach Steven. That was a birth of Coach Steven, actually.
That was.
All right, that ain't Sark. That's Coach Steven. And then he learned, and he had to teach his quarterback, all right, you know what? They're going to take that away. Just take what they give. They're going to give us underneath. Take it. Just take it. So I think it's a lesson for everybody, not just quarterbacks, for play callers as well. So good for him. I'm happy that already he understands that's the natural progression, man. They're going to want to turn you into a boring quarterback, CJ. And you know what? Ask Patrick Mahomes, sometimes boring wins you championships, wins you games. Will Anderson is not boring. And Will Anderson admitted or revealed yesterday that he's been working hard, bulking up. Here is Will Anderson about the weight gain that he revealed he had of 15 pounds over the offseason.
Yeah, I think last year I was like 248, and about the time we got to like the Ravens game, I was just like, I just can't last. Like, I feel like I was getting tossed around, so I kind of bulked up a little this offseason, tried to keep my speed, but I did keep my speed. So I'm like 263 now. I feel good. Some people still say I don't even look big, so I appreciate you for that.
All right, there he goes. He's gained 15 pounds. And, I mean, that's just wisdom that he gained. At the end of the year, he's like, I was spent. I was getting pushed around. Another 15 pounds of muscle. And then maybe he's a little bit more durable. And maybe toward the end of the season, he finishes a little bit stronger. So Texans, they understand the assignment. A lot of expectations on the Texans right now. Okay, you know what? Let's get to the break. We'll get to the break here because I want to get to Raj Ranks. I want to hit these Nick Saban comments about CJ Baxter and his comments about what he believes is the biggest concern personnel-wise for Texas going into this upcoming season, because it's something I've brought up several times. And he even kind of refers to it in the same way that I referred to it too. So we'll get to that coming up in Rod's Rant. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Austin is a great city. That's one of the reasons people keep moving to Austin, Texas, making it one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And as our city continues to grow and thrive, so do our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Many of the iconic landmarks that we love in this city were created and built by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DK Stadium. The folks over at Ironworkers Local 482 don't just go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or a refreshing career change, or you want a new challenge, or you want to feel valued by your employer, you can become a valued member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local 482. And right now is the perfect time to do it. They're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So right now, become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of our great city. So go online today and apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I want to get to a couple of these Nick Saban quotes here. Okay, so the first one here is about the problematic area for Texas. And I've said for a while, I've talked to you guys, I've said, man, to me, one of the issues for Texas is the cornerback spot opposite Malik Muhammad. And Malik Muhammad's fine, but the cornerback spot opposite him, whether that's Javion Cole or whether that's Gavin Holmes, undecided, you really don't know. You don't know which of those guys is going to fill that role. And you don't know if both may fall short, of at least of what your expectations are. And if they do, you're going to need a contingency plan. And I've talked about my contingency plan is just move Jahdae Barron out there. Sark has multiple times I've heard him, unsolicited, I've heard him bring up Jalen Gilbo playing the nickel. I heard Jahdae Barron actually at SEC Media Days say, oh, they got we got 4 or 5 guys that cross-train at nickel and at corner. And, we got guys that play that are cross-training in multiple positions. So I know they're right now emphasizing versatility. So if you trust Jalen Gilbo, which a lot of like I said, Sark has brought him up multiple times here in the offseason because they like what they're seeing from him. If you trust him more than you trust Javion Cole or Gavin Holmes, then move Jahdae Barron out to corner, move Jalen Gilbo up. I don't know if you'll need that emergency option. You already got 2 guys competing for that spot. I think Javion Cole is probably a better natural off coverage corner from what I've watched. Eyes are really disciplined. Does a great job in his progression. Basically, I know we talk about quarterbacks and them going through progressions, but DBs can go through it too. Reading his keys in different coverages, whether that be going from quarterback, reading the 3-step, going to number 2 to number 1, or whether it be going from the number 2 receiver back to the QB, then back to number 1. That's why he's always in the right place. His eyes are really disciplined. And Coach King would always say, your feet go where your eyes go. Make sure your eyes in the right place, feet be in the right place. If your feet are in the wrong place, eyes are probably in the wrong damn place too. And that goes all across football. And his eyes are always in the right place, with his feet are always in the right place. And he's patient. in off coverage. A lot of guys are impatient in off coverage. They stop their feet, or they turn their hips way too quickly to get out of there. And then once you turn your hips, the wide receiver sits down or gets in and out of their breaks, and then you got to flip your hips, or you got to decide that you're gonna do a spin, or you got to come back to the football. It's so for him, his patience helps him a lot because he never really gets out of his back pedal unless he has to. So he'll let you eat up that cushion, and he only turns when he absolutely at the last second has to turn and go when he knows you're running a vertical route. So you don't have to either do a speed turn or flip your hips and get in and out of your breaks. He doesn't have to do that as much. And when he does, like I said, he's really efficient in his with the way that his footwork, and I think his eyes are aligned. And a lot of DBs, their footwork and their eyes are not aligned. They're all over the place. So I think he's better in off coverage, but I think the ultimate determining factor may be who's better in man coverage and who's better playing press coverage. Because he didn't have a lot of snaps playing press that I got a chance to watch, Javion Cole, but I like his game. And Gavin Holmes may be a better press coverage corner. If he is, that's going to make the coach's job of determining who's going to be the starting corner is going to make it really tough because situationally, or at least based on the matchup, you may want a press corner, or you may want a guy who plays off. And even in the breakdown that I saw about Javion Cole, they didn't play a lot of man coverage either. They played a lot of zone, they played a lot of off, which makes sense, and that aligns with what I was able to evaluate, that his eyes and his feet are always aligned really well, and the keys that he's got to read in his progression, those are zone coverage keys. In man, you don't really have a lot of keys. You're playing man, playing your man. Your key may be, hey, I'm reading the 3-step of the quarterback, but once I get 3-step, I snap immediately back to my man. That's my guy. That's your only keys. In zone, you may have 3-4 different keys. You may have starting with the key number 2. If number 2 is vertical, then I got to stay deep. I got to go back to number 1 to make sure number 1 is vertical. Or if, number 2 is away, then I snap back to number 1. Number 1's my man. You may go from quarterback to number 2 to number 1, or you may go from number 2 to number 1 back to the quarterback. Got different keys, right? Different marks. Some are landmarks, some are man marks. Sometimes there's a man that's your mark. Sometimes you got to get to a certain spot on the field. And he's really good at that. So I think the determining factor in who wins that job is going to be who plays man better and who plays press better. Because I think Javion Cole already, in my opinion, may have the advantage in zone coverage. I think he's really good in zone coverage for all the reasons I just laid out. Okay, so getting back to it, I've told you that, guys. I told you that my opinion of that, but months ago, and told you about how I'm concerned about it, and you've heard me reiterate it time and time again. So here's what Nick Saban had to say. His one question mark regarding personnel. Quote, they have a lot of components in place that you need to navigate the kind of season that you're going to play in the SEC. First of all, they got a really strong roster. They have lots of depth at most positions. Probably the only question on their team about players is who's going to be the other corner. That's the only question you would have on their whole team. Think about that, on the whole team. So he talked about D tackle, because you had to bring in 3 transfer portal D tackles. So that should be a concern, at least, but he's not concerned about it. And Nick Saban knows a little bit about defense. And he's been talking to Sark, because him and Sark are close, right? They down like 4 flat tires. So he's been talking to Sark, and Sark would tell him straight up, yeah, you know what, man? I'm worried about them D tackles. I'll give you the inside scoop. You my dog. I'll let you know. Don't throw me under the bus, but I'm concerned about it. And we know that because Sark has voiced his concern. Even after the spring game, we need more big bodies. We need more big bodies at D tackle. He's talked about that openly. And he hasn't talked about really concern about that cornerback spot. So this is Nick Saban's great analysis, because I had the same analysis and great minds think alike. Or it's Sark saying, yeah, that could be something that comes back to haunt us if neither one of those corners, Gavin Holmes or Javion Cole, are up to the task. He went on to say, the offensive line's really good. He said, Sark talked about the receiver room that has quality players. CJ Baxter and these running backs, they got a really, really good. When you look at this team, and he plays the backup quarterback for almost the whole spring game, and he throws for like 350 yards or whatever he threw for. They've got a lot of good players. They've got the right mindset. If they can hold up and do what they need to do on defense, they've got a great offensive team. I think they've got enough players on defense. They've got some transfers. But getting back to cornerback, it's only going to be that one question, because corners do put the limitation on what you can do on defense. If you don't have good corners, you can't play a lot of man-to-man. You got to play soft sometimes. You can't get off the field on third down because you can't play man-to-man. You give up big plays because you're not good at the corner position. If that thing comes through, that's why I picked these guys to be one of the best teams in the league. Probably them and Georgia are the two best teams I saw this spring. So Nick Saban is very concerned about that cornerback spot. He's saying that's the one thing the one thread that could unravel potentially Texas' hopes of improving and taking a leap on defense. And he's right. It just limits what you can do. You got corners that can play man, and Texas wants to play more man-to-man. Sark has said that. They want to play more press man-to-man. Sark has also said that if you don't have the corners to do it, I think Malik Muhammad can do all that. He can play man and he can play press man. But if you're vulnerable at that other corner, you will be easier to game plan for an attack. It'd be pretty simple. You start with that cornerback spot and make Texas adjust. Texas adjusts by moving the safety over there to help that cornerback, and that's going to probably leave those linebackers in a bit of a conundrum in pass defense. They use tight ends, running backs to try to, take advantage of the linebackers being left on an island in coverage, and then you can try to attack the safeties too. Because they'll be overly concerned with that cornerback spot there. It's gonna make PK's life, and we know this. No defense is perfect, but for PK, having a weakness is something you have to account for on every play, and that just makes a defense coordinator's job more difficult. So that other spot opposite Malik Muhammad, that's gonna be big. I think the emergency option is just move Jadae Barron out there. And listen, if Jalen Gilbo doesn't work out at nickel, you can move Makuba there. Right? Makuba played every position in the secondary at Clemson. Played safety, played nickel, played corner. Dabo say he can play any position in the secondary. Move to nickel. If you don't trust Jalen Gilbo, move him to nickel. You got depth at safety. You got Taft Daddy who started games for you. You got Derek Williams, who's going to be a young phenom at the safety position. So you got safeties as well, and you could move Makuba there and then move Jadae Barron out to corner. So I just think those should be the emergency options. You got depth at safety, potentially depth at nickel. Use that depth because of the versatility, because you're cross-training guys. I always say versatility, multiplicity is going to offer you solutions, whether you're talking about roster construction or whether you're talking about schematic, tactical, strategic solutions. Versatility is going to give you more solutions. That's exactly what it's doing for Texas right now. That cornerback spot doesn't work out, I'm not stressing about it really, because I do think you just move Jadae out there and move Makuba to nickel or move Jalen Gilbo to nickel. So I understand exactly what Nick Saban's looking at in terms of the personnel weakness, because it's pretty much a question mark for Texas. I am not overly concerned. Jadae Barron will go out there, and they got multiple options at nickel if the worst case scenario happens, which I think right now I'm leaning toward them end up rotating that cornerback spot until maybe later in the season, mid-season, until they figure out whether Javion Cole or Gavin Holmes will be the better option to give them more reps. Determining factor, though, who plays better man and who plays better press coverage. Because right now I say Javion Cole's got the advantage in off coverage, and they're going to play a lot of zone and they're going to play a lot of off coverage, unless they trust that other guy opposite Malik Muhammad to play press and to play man. So those are the three things. And right now I said Javion Cole, I think he's got the advantage in one factor, and that's off zone coverage. But who's got the advantage in playing man, off man, and who's got the advantage in playing press man? That's, I think, going to be the determined factor. Okay, let's get to this other Nick Saban quote. Nick Saban got a lot of hot takes, and he's got a lot of takes about Texas because he understands Texas fans, they want to hear about their team, especially from the GOAT Nick Saban. So you'll get a lot of clicks, and you'll get a lot of headlines, and you'll get a lot of free media, people like me, talking about Nick Saban and SEC Media Days. if you're talking about Texas. So here's his quote about CJ Baxter, which is one of the most impressive compliments that I think Nick Saban has ever given anybody. I think he was talking about red zone here, actually. Here's a quote. I'm going to alleviate some of your concerns because I know you've got 7 wideouts that can all play. This is what Saban told Sark. He said, I know you've got 3 quarterbacks that can all play. Baxter was the best running back I saw of any team. All right. So you're going to be able to run the ball. And then he goes on to say, if you can run it, you can always do better in the red zone. I'm just going to do a little coaching clinic here just in case. So I think he's talking about red zone offense, which we have discussed ad nauseum. But the comment right before that, Baxter was the best running back I saw of any team. All right. So you're going to be able to run the ball. He actually said, all right. So saying, all right. So don't think Rob B was like, Rob B just said, all right. No, he said, all right. I think he was like trying to be, I don't know, relatable, whatever. But that's what he said. But Baxter was the best running back that he saw of his team. CJ Baxter, the crazy thing was he didn't have a great game versus Bama. This you can't remember. But he only ran for 31 yards. His breakout games came against K-State. What he had with that 90-yard game versus K-State, against Iowa State, 117 yards. They came later. So he's basically either talking about what he saw after they played Texas or what he saw maybe watching him coming out of high school as a prospect. I don't know. Maybe Alabama even recruited him coming out of high school. I have no idea. But that's a bold compliment and a big one. Baxter was the best running back I saw of any team. So I got to go back and look at all the teams that Bama saw and see who the running backs were, because he's saying that freshman was better than any of them, than any of the running backs he saw on the schedule. So give it up for CJ Baxter. And CJ Baxter he's gonna be 1,000-yard back this year. I mean, last year he rushed for 658 yards and 8 touchdowns. So he'll be 1,000-yard back this year. But between him and Jaden Bloom, we talked about Jaden Bloom may be the most impactful player on offense that we're not talking about at all. We're not talking enough about. That backfield, granted it stays healthy. And even with injuries, they're so deep, I think they'll be okay. This year, I think with that pony package thrown out there too, they're going to continue to be arguably the most impressive position room in the country, churning out NFL draft picks year after year and guys who are achieving at a really high level. All right. So we come back. That's a little talk behind the burnt orange curtain, talking some, Raj Rant talking some Texas football. Felt like behind the burnt orange curtain because we were talking so much Texas football. We come back. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats on the other side. Got some NFL stats for you. Also college football stats for you. We'll get back into that on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some what the facts, what the stats. Let's talk about most expensive offenses in the NFL. The most expensive offense in the NFL in the 2024 season projected $191 million spent on offense by the Cleveland Browns. Spent a lot of cash on offense. That's mostly Deshaun Watson, of course. Most of these obviously are mostly the quarterback, but theirs is an extravagant expense, of course, because Deshaun Watson and that fully guaranteed deal. The Rams, they're number 2, 190 million. That's a little surprising, actually, for the Rams.
Well, they're still on they're in the back end of the F them
Cooper
picks,
Kupp,
get everybody.
Matt Stafford deal.
Yeah, all the
the
deals are
Super
now
Bowl.
on. Yeah, all those guys. I bet they have a ton of dead cap.
No, you're probably right about that.
Like guys,
yeah,
like
because it's just surprising now.
yeah,
they don't
all
have a lot
the
of
guys
big
they
names
signed
right
and then
now.
let go and stuff. They're probably still dead cap on those guys too.
That's some guys retire, I thought too. Like
Yeah,
a couple of linemen, something like that. Okay, the Chiefs are third on this list at $170.7 million. And then the Cowboys, they're fourth, $158.7 million. And the Cowboys are okay, and the Falcons are fifth here, $151 million. The Cowboys are about to sign Dak to a $60 million a year deal. Well, at least we believe they are, unless the fit hits the shan and then he ends up hitting free agency, which we don't anticipate that happening. And then they're gonna sign CD to a 30, 32, $33 million a year deal for them. So the Cowboys costs are about to skyrocket. They actually it may end up finishing number 2 here when it's all said and done, because they're about to pay 2 of their stars on offense. And it's interesting. You look at this list. The Browns are up there because of the Deshaun Watson deal, so they're up there because of sheer, I'm saying incompetence, but they're just not very savvy. And the Rams and the Chiefs Rams won a Super Bowl a few years ago. Chiefs, they're on a dynastic run, so whatever they spend is worth it. Like you can't spend too much if you're winning a Super Bowl already won. You just won one, because then everybody's like, oh, we don't care what you spend. F them picks, pay everybody. You won a Super Bowl, pay them. That's what the Rams basically did. They won a Super Bowl, paid everybody. It's like, okay, and nobody cares when you win a Super Bowl. You can pay everybody and overpay people. Nobody's keeping track of that. They're like, no, it worked. Whatever you did, it worked. There's no cost is too high. And the Chiefs, of course, whatever they're paying, they can be the third most expensive offense because they're winning Super Bowls. Who cares? The Cowboys, you up there with that group. You should be, also either competing for Super Bowls or have gone to a Super Bowl, be in that conversation. They're not there. The Falcons just got up there because they just signed the Kirk Cousins deal. And that's why their costs have skyrocketed. But a lot of the Falcons' talent is on rookie deals and still really young. Like Bijan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Like, they're really young. So that's mostly just a Kirk Cousins getting money they spent. So that's why they're up there. The Giants are 6th at 149 million. Colts 7th at 149 million as well. And then the 49ers 147 million. And remember, they're getting the best bargain in the NFL because they got Brock Purdy on the deal as Mr. Irrelevant. Still Mr. Irrelevant's deal. And he's a Super Bowl quarterback. So they got the best bargain in football right now, but that's going to change in a year. So that's why the 49ers window, they got 2 years. And if they don't do it in the next 2 years, they're in trouble because they got to pay Brock Purdy. And then they're not going to be able to accumulate all these they're still very savvy, but they won't have the advantage right now, which may be the biggest advantage in the NFL. Guys, the Jeremy Fowler survey of the top 10 players at every position by execs, scouts, and coaches, the Niners had 9 guys on that list.
9 guys.
9 guys on the top 10 list. And that's not Brock Purdy, by the way.
Yeah.
He's not included.
Which he shouldn't be, but yes.
He shouldn't be exactly. No, you're right. I'm not saying he should be. I guess for them to want to pay him, though, he's gonna have to. He better pick his game up. If they win a Super Bowl with him, can you imagine how he's gonna break the bank? He's gonna break the bank because the 49ers, they're gonna believe that he is the antidote to whatever's ailing them. Right? It's like, oh, it was Brock Purdy. We just needed a quarterback like Brock Purdy, and they're gonna pay him. They're gonna pay him big money.
Yeah,
it'll be about winning the Super Bowl. You cash in.
I mean, that's gonna be because that'll be a place where it'll be at the back end of Christian McCaffrey now. And okay, well, what are we going to do with the running back? Because we have this weapon that really escalated our offense. Now we don't know what they're going to have at wide receiver, but they want to Brandon Ayuk in 2 years.
Yeah,
So
Shannon's
is it
gotta
going to
go
be
trade
Pearsall
for
is going to be the guy, and then Debo's still there, and then I mean Trent Williams on your left tackle. He's been
Kittle's getting older. Kittle's
Trent,
getting older too.
here's like
Right,
there's a lot of guys on that offense that you say in a couple, and I'm just talking about 2-3 years.
Yeah.
You're talking about the difference of I don't know what you're doing in San Francisco in 2 years.
Yeah, they did that. Their window is basically when they got to pay Brock now, and they got to pay him in 2 years.
Yeah.
So they got to. That's why they don't want to give up Brandon Ayuk. Like, no, we can't give up Brandon Ayuk right now because and honestly, Brock Purdy should be hoping they don't give up Brandon Ayuk. That's going to affect his performance. They give up Brandon Ayuk, and trust me, Brock Purdy is not the same either.
And I think we know Lynch and Shanahan know the same thing, which is we got to win one to keep our job through the rebuild.
Yeah.
Is we win one, we might be able to keep our job for a couple years, quickly turn this thing back around and reopen a window. But if we don't win one, and then we have to suck for 2 years or not be great for 2 years to get back, I don't know if we'll still be here.
Yeah, there's no guarantees, but they have done so well.
I agree. I'm not
Super Bowl.
I'm not trying to take a shot at. I'm just saying we know how the industry works.
I know. That's what I'm saying. No, I'm not disagreeing with you, but it's just it's crazy because they can do everything right now. Except they're making every right decision except for winning a Super Bowl. I'll admit the Trey Lance trade was a disaster though. That was you would have won the Super Bowl by now if you didn't screw up that trade so bad. That's the real. Nobody wants to talk about that, but that's the truth. If you didn't screw up the trade, because think about who you would have on your team now. If you didn't screw, probably what they give up to get him.
What,
right?
3 first,
You'd
2
have,
first, 3 first.
You'd have I don't know. You'd have another All Pro on your team at some position.
Yeah, that's great.
You know. Yeah, that's great. All right. Anyway, good stuff there. Both the facts with the stats. We come back. We'll dive into the last day of SEC Media Days. We'll get into some audio from Sam Pittman. He has a retort for Steve Sarkisian and his comments about the Texas-Arkansas rivalry. We'll also hear from Lane Kiffin and taking a shot at Paul Feinbaum there and talk about the Texas A&M rivalry. There's a new type of hatred that Longhorn fans got to get used to, bringing back two rivals. So we'll get into all of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a 5-1-2 Friday. Oh, actually, to be precise, it is a freak flag. Fake it till you make it. Ric Flair. Woo! 5-1-2 Friday edition of the Rodcast. Appreciate you guys joining us. 5-1-2 Friday. That's when my man Patrick plays jams from local bands and artists. Very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Honey Maid, and they are playing Saturday at the ABGB.
Oh, there you go. Nice. I like this. Nice groove. Appreciate Patrick hooking us up on a 5-1-2 Friday. Also, appreciate Patrick coming up with the topics for the big fat poll of the day. And that is already posted on X at the Horn ATX. You can go check it out for yourself. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
Big fat poll of the day today. Which road tailgate would you most like to attend in the SEC?
I already voted, and looks like LSU right now, and that's who I voted for. They're in the lead.
Yep.
Followed by they got 50% of the vote. Ole Miss 30% of the vote, and then Georgia and Tennessee are tied, 10% of the vote each. So it looks like I think a lot of Longhorn fans were looking forward to that LSU home, at least that rematch with LSU, and to travel to Baton Rouge, and even had tickets for it. We even have somebody who commented here said LSU had tickets and hotel booked and was so pumped in 2020, then COVID. So I think a lot of Longhorn fans had plans, and I mean literally had made plans, booked it and everything, because I was in that group too, because I was going, because I wanted to get down there to LSU, and I want to see I got family in Louisiana too, Swamp people, but I want to see that environment. I actually heard a lot about LSU's tailgating scene, and then those obviously plans were imploded because
along
of COVID,
with a lot of
as we
other
all know.
ones.
Yes, as we know. And so I never got there, and I've still to this day I don't know when I'm going to get to LSU. Maybe I can now, but not a kid makes it a little bit different to go hang out and go tailgate.
Well, I don't know,
So
but
I don't
see,
know
that's
when
the
I'm gonna
thing is, if we don't play LSU for 2 more years,
I know,
the kid will be a couple years old.
Said kid can go tailgate now.
Nah, you can take a kid down there 3 years old, 4 years old.
I guess you probably could. Good point. I don't know where I'm gonna be by then. You're right. Good point. So maybe I'll get there soon enough. But I think that's why LSU. Another reason why LSU is so hot. And it's a neighboring state, and a lot of people believe that you could end up having potentially, if the schedule works out, because you're right, you don't play LSU for another couple of years, but there's SEC title games, there's college football playoffs, and because you're getting a lot of recruiting battles now against LSU, because Texas wants to recruit Louisiana more, that can become kind of a it rivalry at one point in the future too with LSU. And we thought it may start in 2020 after that the game against Joe Burrow and the was it 3rd and 17? What was it?
No, 3rd and 65.
3rd and 7. I forget how long it was. Third and forever.
It felt like forever. It felt like,
oh man,
it's still crazy to look at how good. Like when you look at the player rankings in the NFL and like how good and how many of those players went on to do things, and then you look back and you're like, we could have won that. And our team wasn't great that year. We still could have won that game.
Now looking back, you're like, I don't know how we was that close. It was like one of the early games. They hadn't reached their peak yet. They were still ascending.
Yes.
They got better.
We could have derailed it though. Could have derailed it.
Yeah, you're right. Texas got worse and they got better. They Texas kind of flatlined and plateaued. That team just got better and better. Every game they seem to get better. No, you're right about that.
2 of the best wide receivers in the NFL.
Oh man. I mean,
one of the best quarterbacks.
2 first-round wide receivers on that team.
I mean, they had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson.
I think a couple of guys on the O-line ended up getting drafted.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire
was a first-round pick. Remember, Patrick Mahomes picked him, like literally hand selected him. Oh man, 3rd and 17, I believe, versus Texas. Wow, that was amazing. I don't know how he did that. That's when the really kind of the legend started for Joe Burrow. At least that season. It was like, how the hell did you do that? All right. Anyway, sorry for the bad memories, but that's why LSU, I think, is winning that poll. We'll get to some sound, lots of audio here that we'll get to. I want to get to the audio of Lane Kiffin taking a shot at Paul Feinbaum. We'll get to that. But also Sam Pittman's response to Steve Sarkisian saying that Arkansas fans, that they hate Texas more than they like themselves. He had a retort to that. We'll get into that too coming up and hit all of the headlines at the end of SEC Media Days. You did have two of your rivals, now your rekindled rivalries with Arkansas and A&M. Both of them showcased on the last day of SEC Media Days. So we'll talk about Texas rivals a little bit before we dive into some Brandon Harris sound, the new GM of the Texas football team. He actually did an interview with 247 Sports that we'll get into when we go behind the burnt orange curtain and talk some Texas football. So we're loaded, but before we do, let's get educated, updated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Los Angeles Clippers and Utah Jazz have agreed to a deal to send Russell Westbrook, a second-round pick swap, and cash to the Jazz in exchange for Chris Dunn, who will receive a new 3-year, $17 million deal with the Clippers. Westbrook is expected to be waived by the Jazz and then will sign with Denver, who has been looking to add backcourt and bench depth in the offseason. Westbrook averaged a career-low 11.1 points, 4.5 assists, in 22.5 minutes per game last season, but played some of the best defense of his career, ranking 4th in field goal percentage allowed. In the MLB, the Astros will begin the second half of the season with Hunter Brown taking the mound against the Seattle Mariners tonight. The Astros are currently 1 game behind the Mariners for the lead in the AL West. Seattle holds the tiebreaker with a 5-2 advantage in the head-to-head so far this season. And the Rangers begin their series with the Orioles tonight with Nathan Eovaldi getting the start. This is a big series for the Rangers. They wait for the returns of Dane Dunning, Jacob deGrom, and Josh Young, as the series win could inspire them to become buyers at the trade deadline, while a series loss could encourage management to sell at the deadline. The Rangers have won 7 of their last 10 before the break and hope to spark a second-half run reminiscent of last season. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right. Thank you for the Horn Headlines there, Patrick. We appreciate those. All right, let's get right to the SEC Media Days, last day of SEC Media Days. I think today they're going to release the media poll and the preseason all SEC team. I don't know if that'll be released before we're off there, so not we'll get to it on Monday. But the last day of SEC Media Days yesterday, and you had Arkansas and A&M on stage, showcased on the last day. 2 of Texas's newly rekindled rivals now entering into the SEC. And not yesterday, 2 days ago, when Texas was on stage for SEC Media Days, Sark had one of his, I think, great moments when he was asked about the Texas-Arkansas rivalry and rekindling it, and his experience, of course, visiting Arkansas as during his first year at Texas when they got mollywopped. But he had a great quote that echoed the sentiment and really expressed how the old school Longhorn faithful feel about the Texas-Arkansas rivalry. And I've heard some old Longhorn fans say this exact quote about Texas-Arkansas. Here is Steve Sarkisian from a couple of days ago being asked about playing Arkansas again as a rival.
First of all, I'd like to play better than we played in 2021. We did not play very good in that ball game, and it's a great environment. I always jokingly say this, and I feel like when you go to Arkansas, that I think I almost at times feel like they hate Texas more than they like themselves. I mean, that's a real rivalry. You know, that's when you know you're in a real rivalry. And I know so much has been made of us getting to play A&M again, but the fact that we get to play Arkansas again is awesome.
I love that, right? And honestly, and I'll say this, and I said it earlier. I'm humbled enough to say I think their strategy of hating Texas more than they like or love themselves actually works for them. Because when they've played Texas recently, outside of the true rivalry of the Southwest Conference days, just when I've gotten a little taste of it, because every generation of Longhorn fan gets a little taste of Arkansas. You play them in a bowl game, they schedule them in the regular season a couple of times, as they did in 2021, and Sark's group got a taste of it. I got a taste of it in 99. We played them in the Cotton Bowl. We lost. Charlie Strong got a taste of them. Remember? Borderline erotic. They lost. Even if Texas is a better program and Texas has better talent, and even when they're close, their hatred actually allows them to play at a higher level. I brought this up earlier. If you watch, Star Wars, you're a fan of Star Wars. I mean, the power of the Force. The power of the Force is just love and hate. That's pretty much. And honestly, the dark side of the Force that's hate is just as powerful as the other side of the force. I mean, that's what Darth Vader and the Sith Lord, that's what they're all about, the dark side of it. That's what feeds Arkansas. It's the dark side of the force. And trust me, I have felt that dark side of the force, and Sark has felt it. It will mollywop you upside down, even if you're a better team. You got more talent because you're not riding that emotional wave of hatred that they are. And that, I'm telling you, it works for them. You got to be careful. Doesn't matter if you're better. That's why rivalries, you kind of throw stuff out because emotion plays such a bigger part of it. You never really know. Some guys, they play better with emotion. Some guys play worse with emotion. I always say, play with emotion, don't play emotional.
Yeah.
And some guys get emotional trying to play with emotion, and it doesn't work right for them. That's what happens a lot of time in the Texas OU game. You know, sometimes when Texas is a younger team, they get blown out or they have bad performances because they're a younger team. Even Sark, right? He got up 21 points in the game, and then they had the implosion. That was a young Texas team, or Sark and his young coacher, because they play emotional and not playing with emotion, and you learn the difference as you get older. But that's I'm telling you, they use the dark side of the force. But anyway, so Sark made that comment, great moment for him. And Sam Pittman was asked about it, the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, and here is the Sam Pittman retort.
We hadn't played Texas for years, and when we played them a couple of years back, it was the most excited our fan base has been in a while. So I would say he's probably right. You know, the difference is Texas is certainly a different team than what we played. That was his first year there, and now, you know, obviously he's a great coach, great guy, and got a wonderful football team. But I'm glad that we're going to play them at home again. You know, I don't know if that's fair because they came there 2 years ago, but it's an early morning game. But he's probably correct. You'd have to ask the old hats of Arkansas, but he's probably right.
At least he admitted it. He's probably right because it works for them. It works. They've had success with that model of hating Texas more than they love themselves. And as Sark said, that's a real rivalry.
By the way, you want to know why Arkansas may let go of Sam Pittman? It's because of stuff when he goes, I don't know if that's fair. And I can tell you every Arkansas fan's like, who gives a damn about fair?
Who gives a damn about fair? We hate Texas. No, you're right about that. That's true. And you know, I don't know how Arkansas, I don't know if they like that comment he just made of him being very honest about that, or if they don't. I have not gone on any message boards or looked up Arkansas
they
Twitter
have computers
to find out
there
how
now?
they feel about that comment. Huh?
They have computers there now?
They do flip phones. They got some data stuff they're using there now. But it's interesting that really that logic, right, of hating another program more than you like yourselves. A&M, I think Texas got to get used to this because you could argue that's the case for A&M as well. Shamar Turner, defensive lineman, who was one of the attendees at SEC Media Days, he was asked by the On Texas football team over there at ontexasfootball.com. They do a great job. If he hated Texas more than he loved A&M, this was his exact response.
Repeat that.
And then literally later on, he says, probably so. Says, probably so.
Yeah.
Get used to that. And like I said, if Arkansas, if they can play, you know, above their capability, exceed their ceiling because of the power of the dark side of competitive hatred like that, the Aggies can tap into it too now.
Yeah.
And they may have as much of it, if not more of it, than Arkansas. The question is, so this and for that Texas A&M rivalry, it's a little bit different. I always say you can't relate. Longhorn fans don't relate at all to Arkansas fans, but at least the A&M fans, you know Aggies, you work with them, you go to school with them. This is a sibling rivalry to a certain extent, and I always felt that it hurts the ability of it to get toxic, for it to be acidic, right? Like Texas and Oklahoma can get, or like Texas Arkansas can get, because there's so much familiarity and there's so much like I played with two guys, Teron Woolridge and Key Joseph, who I played with in high school, who played ball at A&M. Usually half the guys on those rosters were recruited by both. I was almost an Aggie. My final choices came down to Texas A&M and Texas. I don't know why I put A&M first there. Texas and Texas A&M. And I chose Texas. I chose wisely. But how can I truly have competitive hatred, real toxic, acidic disdain for a program when I was almost one of them? I was almost an Aggie, right? I was very, and half the damn people on both rosters, they were almost a Longhorn or almost an Aggie. So I always felt like that keeps that rivalry from totally becoming. Now there's a different element now that the Schlossnagle thing happened, Texas baseball, and you hadn't played in a decade plus. I do believe now you may be able to push this into the toxic.
Yeah, and
category.
I mean, you also throw in social media. Social media wasn't around the last time this was a big rivalry,
right.
And so there wasn't the fact that you had, some of the best and some of the worst of your fan base being very vocal on there, where there's going to be people in there and be like, all of you guys are yelling at us. They're like, not all of us are. It's 14 users are yelling at y'all, and you kiss ass all of us. But it's back and forth, and both sides have that. So there's an added part of it too, where it can get you riled up, because it only takes a few people to rile up the hornet's nest, and they'll be doing it on both sides now. Where before it was easier because you go, well, that guy over there is yelling, but I know 7 Aggies, and we're all cordial.
No, you're right about that. You're right about that. And that maybe that's the toxicity that I feel like it's going to be added to it is social media.
Yeah.
And how that will just really just in a volatile fashion just throw tons of gasoline on this rivalry. And we know this because of what happened with Schlossnagle. And I said it on this show, and you agreed. We asked Nick Shuley and some other guys. That was probably the most active and engaged Longhorn Twitter had ever been.
Yeah,
you could argue. And I heard on the other side Billy Lucci say the same thing about Aggie Twitter. So to your point, social media is about to douse a whole lot of fuel on this this fire. And yes, so maybe now it gets into that realm. I think when you have more players, though, because like I said, there's so much crossover. I knew Aggies, and these guys were recruited by both sides. Some guys almost were Aggies, like myself. So hard to hate something that you were almost a part of. And I learned to have true disdain for them. But my competitive hatred for Oklahoma, it's far more intense. And I think Longhorn fans are probably closer to hating Oklahoma more than they like themselves than any of their other rivals. I don't think Longhorn fans hate any program more than they love themselves. I think Longhorn fans love themselves.
Yeah.
and that's probably part of an issue too. And people talk about ego and and being egotistical and self-interested and all right, we can get into that later on. That'd be a Freudian breakdown of Longhorn fans, if you will. You can psychoanalyze that. But Longhorn fans love themselves way too much and love their program way too much to ever hate another program more than they love themselves. So Longhorn fans really do hate Oklahoma. I'm talking about with a passion. But because their love for themselves is so immense to the point where people will say, man, that's an egotistical fan base. Hey, call it what you will. I love me some me. That's basically Longhorn fans in a nutshell. I love me some me.
Yeah,
and so because of that, they'll never hate another program more than Oklahoma's the closest.
Oklahoma's the closest. I was trying to think of like merch, and where you can say what merch you see people wearing the most that's not Texas affiliate. Like, so where it's a Texas shirt, but it's anti another school.
Oh,
because like the Aggies have plenty of anti-Texas stuff, right?
They got the Psalm off stuff.
Yeah, they have all that
horns
stuff.
down
but
stuff.
Texas does have OU suck stuff.
They do have OU sucks, yes.
So
matter of fact, they say it in the fight song.
Yeah, so I think that's probably it, because that's the only one I can think that really there's a ton of where you say I've seen that shirt a ton, or I've seen that hat or whatever else, and it gets chanted in Texas fight and everything else. Where I think that is more than anyone else. Where if you just say it's part of kind of the culture of Texas fandom is OU sucks is in that, and there isn't really one for the Aggies. And there may be now that the rivalry's renewed and now it's a different landscape, but that's that's the place that has that. No other place has, there was never a Baylor shirt or a Texas Tech shirt or any of that you saw a bunch of people wearing.
Yeah. No, I will say that in the eyes of Texas, there is the A&M line, and it's goodbye to A&M. So you mentioned them in the eyes of Texas. You mentioned the Aggies. The Longhorn fans have put them in the fight song. I don't think that OU sucks is actually in the fight song.
No.
But Longhorn fans have added, because they hate them so much, OU sucks in there as a part of the Texas fight. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think you're right. I never see an Aggie diss merch.
No.
I've seen.
Like no one wears a thumbs down.
Yeah, no. I've seen multiple, or with a thumb with sawed off or something, a sawed off
yeah.
thumb.
I don't see that.
I've seen a lot. I've seen tons of merch. I can even recall it in my head of Texas fans wearing that disses Oklahoma in some way, form, or fashion. No, good point there. I agree with that. Okay. Speaking of the rivalry, a couple of the cuts we got to play before we get out of here. Torian York, maybe one of my favorite Aggies, and we talking about Aggies. And I know your favorite Aggie is kind of like, saying your favorite serial killer. But he might be one of my favorite young Aggies because I love his approach now to the Texas A&M rivalry. Like I said, it's hard to have genuine disdain and disgust for that program when you're almost one of them. Listen to his approach, because if you have more players on both sides that have Torian York's, the linebacker from A&M's, attitude, this rivalry could get toxic and nasty in a hurry.
It's personal. That's all I have to say. It's personal.
What kind of relationship do you have with some guys on the team at Texas?
I don't talk to anybody from Texas because it's that personal to me.
I don't talk to anybody from Texas. I don't talk to any of them dudes. That is when it's going to become. And the reason he doesn't talk to anybody, he wasn't recruited by Texas. That's originally, but originally he doesn't like Texas because he wasn't recruited by Texas. And that is by the way, Texas won't have to deal with that anymore as much, right? In the Big 12, that was almost a rallying cry for all the teams in the Big 12, right? Whether you're going to Texas Tech or Baylor or TCU or Oklahoma State, if Texas didn't recruit you, oh man, we can get you up for that game. And that was like half the rosters of the Big 12 teams were players that Texas didn't recruit who thought they should have been recruited by Texas, just like that young man. And when they played Texas, talk about it almost felt like a rivalry game to them. It felt like a rivalry game because they had so much emotion they were playing with, because they had been building this grudge against Texas ever since they were 17. Like, Texas ain't going. I'm in the state of Texas. You ain't gonna offer me a scholarship.
Yeah.
They offered this dude at the other school a scholarship. That dude's a scrub. I played against that dude, and over and over. And then you start playing this in your head and building up this narrative, and it almost in your head, it almost plays out. It's an origin story for a supervillain. Texas has a lot of those where Texas is part of the origin story of a supervillain at some other school who hates Texas now, like Johnny Manziel or Baker Mayfield, because they just didn't recruit him, and they're like, I hate Texas for not recruiting me, and then it takes over. It gets a life of its own, Patrick. After that,
no, it's always that that mental. I have to hate somebody to play better. Michael Jordan did it.
Yep,
it was that that you create stories. And that created the story of Texas didn't recruit me. And you go, well, neither did 25 other schools. Why you mad at us? You mad at all of those schools? Like, Texas Tech didn't recruit you. Then, but you're like, no, they're the problem. And so I get it. And, and it's twofold, because when they go play it on the road, when Texas would play on the road and Texas would travel there, they go, welcome to our neck of the woods now. And you're going to see what you missed out on. We're going to beat you. And when you would go there, they would have their whole family there, because it was easier to come to Texas because it's a big enough place that you get tickets. And then, and the drive was easier than if you played at Iowa State. Your family's not always going to be able to go up to Iowa State. But if you're playing in Texas, everyone can come down from Dallas or come up from Houston or wherever you're from. And everybody be there. And you're like, I'm going to show out for my family to show that you should have recruited me.
Yeah, back in the day, it didn't matter. Now that they got money, so they just bring the family up. They got cash now. The guys got a lot of money, so now it's not a big deal. Back in the day, though, I stayed in Texas because my R.C. Slocum said, "Hey, if you stay in the state of Texas and play your college football here, your mom and dad will go to 80% of your games because they'll be able to travel to Lubbock. They'll be able
Yeah.
to travel to to different places in the Big 12, the Waco, and of course all the games in Texas, and go to Texas OU. They'll go to most of your games. They won't go to Iowa State. They won't go to the K-State game when you're on the road. They're Kansas, but all the games in the state of Texas, they'll go to all those games. And that was it. I was like, okay, but I'm going to Texas or Texas A&M. I want mom and dad to go to games. Period. Because I know that was it was important to them to be able to watch their son play. So that was a big part of it. Now, right, that I don't know if that matters anymore because now the guy's like, no, I'll fly mama there. I'll fly mom and dad there. First class, first class team. Mom and daddy get for first class treatment. All right, there you go. All right, so we come back. We'll go behind the burn orange curtain next. We'll play this sound from Brandon Harris, general manager of the Texas Longhorns, and he's talking about a lot of things, mainly recruiting. And I want a lot of Longhorn fans who have been concerned about the lack of momentum on the recruiting trail to listen to Brandon Harris and what he has to say because he addresses that lack of momentum on the recruiting trail. So we'll talk about that when we come back right here and go behind the burn orange curtain right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some Texas football conversation. So let's hear from Brandon Harris. He did an interview with 247 Sports. He is the general manager of the Texas Longhorns. And he answered a few questions. I think some of the pieces of audio are pretty interesting. The first question, they get right to it. He was asked about the ranking of their current 2025 recruiting class being outside the top 10, closer to the top 15. And Brandon Harris was asked, is that a concern for you? I know a lot of Longhorn fans have been concerned about it and the lack of momentum that Texas has had this offseason in recruiting. Here is what Brandon Harris, the GM of the Texas Longhorns, had to say.
Yeah, so for us, and I mean, no insults when I say this. I mean, obviously a big fan of 247 Sports, On3, Rivals, and all of those different platforms. But, we believe in our process, which we believe in evaluating our own players and doing the things that we do. And we don't get caught up with outside rankings and what, other, affiliate ranking websites may think of, how we recruit. We evaluate the right players. And when we evaluate the right players, we try to go out and assign them. And, luckily these last 3 years, now going into year 4, we've been pretty fortunate in doing so.
Yeah, and there's some people, and and Sarkis said that before too. Stars and recruiting rankings, that doesn't matter to them. They're all about getting the right players who are compatible with their culture and their program. There are rumors, allegations. A lot of Longhorn fans are claiming that Texas is getting outbid potentially. And when it comes to NIL and some of these recruitments, we know the allegation is that Oregon has unlimited NIL resources. Texas lost some recruitments to Florida State and some other schools around the country, and at times the rumor mill will throw out there that Texas got outbid for a player in NIL. So this question is related to NIL and its role for Texas in their current recruiting model. Here is Brandon Harris.
Yeah, for us, and I think Coach has been on record saying this, Coach Sark, we always want kids to sign up to come to the University of Texas for all the right reasons, right? I mean, you talk about a top 10 program, top 5 program, I might add. You talk about a top 5 student education as it relates to public schools. We want to sign the right kids that want to be here for all of the right reasons, how they're going to develop on and off the field. And then, hey, at the end of the day, NIL has now become part of that conversation. And our goal always is just to educate people on NIL and talk about the different opportunities that are afforded to you when you have the opportunity to play at the University of Texas, which is a top 5 program in the country and probably the most recognizable logo. Well, not probably, I know the most recognizable logo in all of college sports. So when all those things align and you feel like this is where you're going to be at, we always have said, NIL always makes sense. And we've been pretty fortunate to have a really, really good NIL system that we have here at Texas.
All right. And once again, I feel like he is reiterating the same thing that Sark has talked about, or at least implied, that they're not going to be the highest bidder in the NIL game every time. I'm sure there's some where they have been the highest bidder, but they're, the way that they have stated their stance on NIL is that yes, NIL resources at Texas are robust and you will have NIL opportunities, but it seems like they want you to kind of start with a base of NIL, compensation, and then earn more of it as you are a player. Like I said, I could be off here, but that's kind of that's the vibe I'm getting, is that no, we're not going to be the highest bidder, and we're not going to be outbidding the competition in recruiting every time. Like I said, I'm sure sometimes they decide, no, this guy, he's special. We're going all in on this guy. But it's not happening with every player, even though Texas may have resources to do so. And I think that's part of his solution to keep the culture from being too toxic by bringing in guys who are only prioritizing NIL over everything else. And I always say there are 2 types of student athletes at Texas. 2 types of student athletes: the ones who came to play for Texas and the ones who came to play at Texas. The guys who came to play, are gals, by the way, who came to play for Texas, those are the ones who want to do more for the university, right? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Same situation, right? Ask not what Texas can do for you, but what you can do for Texas. The 4 Texas players, they want to leave it better than they found it. They're about trying to figure out what they can do to help the university. In addition to obviously taking advantage of the numerous opportunities and benefits, but the at Texas folks, all they want to talk about is what Texas can do for them. That's it. And I think that's who they're trying to avoid. They're trying to avoid the at Texas guys. And you can transform and you can evolve as a player. I've seen players start off being at Texas players and then change into by their junior year and senior year being for Texas players, and being less selfish and being team oriented and focusing on being a good teammate and all of those different things that it takes, right, to build a positive culture. I just think they're trying to avoid having to, rehab their culture over and over again because they brought in the wrong elements to it. And you could argue that I'm not saying it's working and I'm not saying it's the right move, but I think that's what they're trying to do. And I think it's a really fine line to walk in the NIL transfer portal world.
Yeah.
It's tough.
No, I mean, and especially when you talk about what Sark has been really adamant of building this culture, knowing that it's two players. You bring in two players, and it is widely known that they're paid for hired guns. And now that's two roster spots that somebody else didn't get. That's two roster spots, or that's two, spots on the playing field that guys are not, guys that felt they were going the right way and did everything the right way. They're not getting on the field for. And, you can get a little bit more malcontent that way. Feel, man, I did everything right. I did everything the way I could. And then they came out, and now this other guy who doesn't care, who doesn't want to be there, doesn't want to show up with Culture Tuesdays. He sits by himself. He doesn't necessarily care about anything. He came here. He's a hired gun. We know what he's here to do. He's getting paid. And then I think he's talking, he may transfer out after the season, go get another paycheck. And we know what that is. So you don't want to bring that in. And now sometimes you may bid for the guy and he turns out to be the best team player and plays for Texas and everything else. So that's when you talk about that fine line is where you can push it. I know I can put it, and this is Texas basketball, but that was the last recruit they got, Kaluma. We talked about that. We know SMU had a better offer, but at SMU, you're not necessarily playing to try and make a run in the tournament. You're not necessarily playing at the higher level, playing at a power conference and getting on TV all the time and having everything that comes with that. So you wanted to go, and you say you want to push your offer as far as you can, but at the same point, if you're only choosing us because of the money, it may not be the right fit anyway.
Yep. That is exactly right. And I don't know how close they come to whatever the top dollar figures. I have no idea. It reminds me of that story where Jay Norvell said that somebody from K-State, rogue booster, collective directive, we don't know, coach, we have no idea, personnel man, offered his quarterback $600,000 to leave Colorado State and go to K-State. Is the market rate for a top 25 starting quarterback $600,000? Yes. That is the market rate. Did they actually offer that? We don't know. And how could you confirm it? Are you going to call? You got connections at K-State to be able to confirm what they're offering people? No. And then I love your theory, Patrick, that a lot of this is almost like car sales. Like they're like car salesmen, where the price tag and what you actually end up paying sometimes, and the actual. You know what I mean? What's actually in the window can be a little bit different.
Yeah, and it's the theory of you could make up to $600,000 here. We have this money set. We're not going to give it all to you, right? We're not. When you sign on the dotted line and you come here, I'm not handing you a check for $600,000. But you could, with incentives and everything else. And if you show up and you do great community service stuff for us, and you do this and that, then we'll throw more and more money on top of it. And and if you stay another year after that, then you get more of that $600,000. But in your time here, you could make $600,000, not a one-time fee, not a and so that number, when it comes back, you say, well, they offered me $600,000. You're implying there's a check for $600,000 waiting for you in Kansas.
Yeah,
and that's not necessarily the case.
That's the mindset.
And that's the way I always brought it back in wrestling back in the day. It was always, you hear these conversations about guys that worked out and it didn't work out, that basically you would get an offer and they would say, look, we're not paying you a guaranteed money. You get paid. You're guaranteed like 2 dates at $100 a date. And some guys made millions of dollars and other guys made nothing. And it was like, if you had the right attitude, but then they would come out and they go, I was promised that I would win the title. And they said, no, They said we could see you winning the title.
Yeah.
And
Saw the
that's
language.
not,
Yeah.
and that's not the same thing, because it's, if you earn it, you can get there. And so I think there is some of that as well of, and that's why you want it to be a little bit more transparent, because sometimes it can be shady business people making these deals where they get someone recruited and know how to phrase it to get somebody to promise them $800,000, and they show up and they make 65, and they're like, I don't know why, like, what, you just lied to me. We know there was a
That's
whole thing
lawsuit.
in was it
the Billy Napier lawsuit?
Yeah.
The lawsuit against Florida. Yeah, no, you're right. That's
and
exactly
so
right.
it's all the wording of it. It's a weird thing in NIL. I think Texas is really trying to be on the up and up on it, because they understand they can't afford to not be.
And it's probably hurting them a little bit too.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, it probably is. But
Especially,
they're willing to take that L initially, because they know that's less headaches on the back end. Because as Sark pointed out, you bring in that guy and you make him false promises. Once he realizes you're full of it, he's leaving anyway.
Yeah.
You can't stop him hitting the transfer portal. He's leaving anyway. Then he took your NIL money with him and he's out. And he also left, a toxic trail through your damn locker room because he was so upset, complaining all the damn time. So I agree with him on that.
Yeah.
All right, let's get through this before, because I know we're up against it here. Okay, so he was also asked about the top elements in building and constructing a roster. Here's what Brandon Harris had to say.
Yeah, for us, the number one thing is we got to evaluate the right talent. It starts there. I think we do a really, really good job in our evaluation process. Then next is you got to recruit. You got to have a right system in place to recruit the best players. And then after that, you got to develop those guys. If you can do those three, in my opinion, components really, really well, you're fortunate, like we were this past April for the draft, to have 11 players drafted. So I think if you continue to have that system in place, the sky's the limit for your program.
Himself was a quarterback, and that's why him and Sark bonded, because Sark's a quarterback too. So he was asked to give his own evaluation as a personnel man of Quinn Ewers, their starting quarterback. Here's what Brandon Harris had to say.
Oh man, like you won't probably find a bigger fan than me on Quinn. Quinn's elite in every sense of the word. Quinn's probably one of the most gifted passers, quarterbacks I've ever been around, and he's so chill, right? The moment's never too big for him. It's a reason why, our success has continued to go up since he's been here and he's taken over as our quarterback. And obviously he's going into year 3 as a starting quarterback, with all of the, the recognition that he rightfully so deserves. My goal is always to try to be one of the parts of putting, the best talent that we can around him. And I think the sky's the limit. But in terms of the talent, you won't find a better talented quarterback. And, I think he's poised to have an awesome season here in year 3 in our program.
All right, Longhorn recruiting fans, these are for you. This is a true false segment they do at the end of all their interviews, and they ask them about this recruiting class in 2025. Here is Brandon Harris.
B, true or false? Texas will finish in the top 5 in the 2025 recruiting rankings.
True. I think we set up. We've always done a good job of finishing really, really well, and ultimately, the season has a lot to do with that. I think we're poised to have a really good season. If we do that, it'll take care of the rest.
B, last one for you. Winning the recruiting signing class in the summertime is way too overblown.
100% true. I think it goes back to that last comment that I just made. Obviously you like momentum, and, obviously we'll have a ton of momentum leading into our season. But what I will always say is the season has a lot to do with how you finish in recruiting. If you go out and you play really, really well and you're developing players and players are having an opportunity to play at the next level, I think it takes care of recruiting. And fortunately for us, I think, again, we're going to have a really, really good season, and that's going to, propel us into having another good signing day class that'll, lead us into the future.
All right, there you go. That's Brandon Harris, general manager of the Texas Longhorns, betting that the Longhorns' momentum will come once they prove it on the football field in the SEC. All right, we come back. We'll have Off the Record on the other side. Wild, crazy stories from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. We'll come back and hit that right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Aside from the traffic, Austin is a great city, one of the best cities in the country. That's why people keep moving to Austin, and I know that doesn't help the traffic, but people keep moving here, and that's why we love it. People love it because it's such a great city for so many reasons. The people are great. The food is fantastic. The music is great as well. Also, the landmarks around town that make it so unique and make it so iconic. And many of those landmarks that you know very well were actually built and constructed by our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. They're one of the reasons that Austin continues to grow and thrive. Many of the landmarks like DeCare Stadium and Pennybacker Bridge were built by the skilled craftsmanship of our good friends at Ironworkers Local 482. And right now, they're building and constructing another huge project right here in Central Texas. They're hiring over 3,000 people for this project right here in Central Texas, offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So if you're thinking about an exciting employment opportunity, or you want a refreshing career change, or you want a new challenge, or you want to feel valued by your employer, you can become a valued member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local 482. And right now is a great time to do it. Maximize your potential today and be your best self. Simply go online and apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some off the record here. I got this story actually from Pro Football Talk. Caleb Williams, who's now the starting quarterback, or will be the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears, was the number one overall pick. This story says that, and maybe they're trying to prove what a nice guy is, that he turned down millions of dollars in an NIL deal. He was going to do a commercial. There was an NIL deal, that basically an NIL commercial that he had a chance to be a part of. The deal was going to pay him upwards of $1 million. He turned the deal down, and gave it to his offensive lineman. Yeah, this came out yesterday. That he admitted that he had an NIL opportunity for $1 million. Now he's already, I'm sure, he was making millions in NIL money. So I mean, you could argue, hey man, it's not that much of a sacrifice for him, but still, I mean, more millions, and gave it to his O-line. That's pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie, for Caleb Williams, that's pretty cool. That he gave a $1 million, multi-million-dollar NIL deal. It says here a commercial, so it could go to the USC offensive line. So there you go. And the O-line, the commercial, I'm still not really sure what it's for. I'm watching it right now. I think it's some energy drink of some kind. Athletic brewing company.
It's such a weird. That is a weird. I mean, unless it's like completely USC centric, where they were like, "This is only we're giving it for USC," and so you can get the line. If I'm a company and I go, "Hey, I want you most recognizable quarterback. I want you to be in the commercial," and then he goes, "No, but you're not my offensive lineman." You go, "Hard pass." All right, I don't want to. Like
I'm not paying the same price tag. I'll tell
but
you
I don't
that.
want him at all. I can go pay another quarterback then. Like I can go get someone else notice. Like I'm trying to. The reason why it's there is because you're this very well known quarterback. I get it. You just take the role and then give the money to them. They do that.
Yeah, they obviously wanted. They obviously wanted the USC centric whatever theme here. I don't even know why, but you're right. I want to know what they paid the old lineman. I know they didn't pay him the same price tag they were going to pay for Caleb Williams, because as you pointed out, your name, image, and likeness is not worth the same, because I don't recognize your name, your image, and I wouldn't recognize your likeness.
Nothing about it.
But yeah, but you're right, Caleb Williams. I would. So maybe it's not totally true, because maybe they didn't get the same offer. They probably got, I don't know, maybe 50,000 each or something like that. Not the millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams, he's worth millions of dollars.
No, it's always funny. I see these. I saw it's because it's all about how it's spun now. And you see the Caleb Williams, he signed his deal with the Bears, and then you see people come out and they go, he got all this guaranteed money, and then they name like a position that doesn't make as much money, and they'll be like, and this guy's a 10-year vet, he only makes this. Go, well, yeah, but it's a rookie wage scale for the quarterback, and that's about how much is guaranteed. It's not really like it's not a crazy contract, and I get all this, but you can't compare those two, and then if they like somebody, then they'll compare it to something that makes way more, where they'll go, look, he did this and Lionel Messi made this much. And you're like, well, yeah, because that's in soccer and it's a worldwide sport. Yeah.
It's like,
it's weird.
It's not comparable.
People always try to make these comparisons to make it look right. And you just go, hi, you guys, I think you're missing the point. He signed. That's, he didn't sign for a little bit. He wanted to make sure the guaranteed money was there. He got it. They put a lot of players around him, and then we'll see what he can do. He's got an uphill battle being a Bears quarterback.
He certainly does, but hey, man, showing love to the O-line.
Yeah, that's a good thing. You should show love.
Some points.
Yeah,
you should show love, especially when you get the money.
I don't think.
Showing love.
Do you think Shedeur would do that?
Shedeur, you know what? He doesn't have the same O-line though. He literally has a new O-line.
He kicked his last O-line out of.
They literally kicked him out. Like him and his dad kicked out the old O-line. No, and Deion openly talks about it. He was like, "Nah, man, I'm watching my son get pulverized out here. We got to change it." And they went and got an entire new O-line. He better be taking them out. Every quarterback should be treating their O-line. That's part of the job. You got to take them out to eat. You should be bringing them Chick-fil-A all the time, surprising them with treats and meals. They like food, but all kind of stuff, man. Whatever your lineman needs, you should be taking care of them. You need them to have a emotional connection to you and want to protect you, and actually it be something that is on their heart. That no, I gotta protect them. This person, I have to. I love them so much, I must protect them.
Yes,
and you need to buy their affection straight up. I was told by a coach, like, no, quarterback should be buying O-lineman's affection all the time. Just buy them stuff, treat them to meals, and now it's easy with NIL. Now you got all the money and resources to do it, but you should be buying their affection constantly. And it's not that expensive. They really just want food. Want you to pay for some meals. That's basically all it comes down to. And every now and then buy them a gift. You always see them get like Louis Vuitton bags or something.
Yeah,
I don't really care about that stuff. Like, we don't really care about that kind of stuff. Sometimes they'll get them watches or something really cool, like at the end of the year. You can do that, but for the most part, you're just buying them food. cupcakes every now and then, stuff like that. Like you really, and it's crazy. That's really it is. It probably is a bit stereotypical, but they're just big guys. And you're just like, hey man, you want to get some barbecue? They're like, yeah. Like, come on,
Hey,
that's on
man.
me. Yeah, that's great.
Hey man, after PAX, I got wings catered.
Yeah, it is. No, I swear, that's exactly what it is. Like, I got some wings at the crib for y'all. All right, let's go. And it's just always constantly the linemen are talking about somebody cooking food or going to get some food. It's great. It really is. It's great. All right, let's get to the break here. We'll come back. Last hour of the show. We'll dive into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. CJ Stroud, Will Anderson spoke to the media after practice yesterday. We have some of that audio. We'll also get to Nick Saban's comments. He gave a really great all-time great compliment that he paid to CJ Baxter. We'll dive into that. We'll also get into what he believes is the biggest personnel issue for Texas. Hint, hint. It's something that I've brought up several times with you guys, so it's not that unfamiliar. We'll dive into that, and we got some other stories we'll share. And there's some other audio we haven't played that I want to get to, so we'll try to stuff that into the next hour of the show. And we got a Rangers report. Don't forget about that. Rangers fans, don't go anywhere. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis, my co-host, the Idillionaire, who does a great job with the musically themed days of the week. He also comes up with a 512 Friday, which is when he plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Sir Woman playing Saturday at the Parish.
Oh, I like that, Sir Woman. I'm always intrigued by the origin of band names. I always just like I would love to, and sometimes it's a short story, sometimes it's a long one, sometimes it's something really deep and meaningful, and sometimes like no, we was just sitting around drinking, and it was a joke, and it was like that's funny, there you go, and whatever it is. So I'm always interested. I don't know why, for some reason I'm obsessed with band names. Thanks to Patrick for the 512 Fridays. Also, thanks to him for the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, which is already up at X, on the X account at the Horn ATX, I should say. Patrick, give the people the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day.
Big Fat Poll of the day today. Which road tailgate would you most like to attend in the SEC? Since we said the place that scared you the most on the road this year, we decided to switch it up and be a little bit nicer on a Friday and ask you which road tailgate would you most like to attend? I was going to say which one are you looking forward to, but not everyone's going to be able to travel. So we say which one would you most like to? If you had the ability to go, which one would you go to? LSU still taking the lead with 46% right now. Ole Miss second at 36%. Georgia and Tennessee still tied there, about 9% for them.
Yeah, that LSU would have been my choice. And I still think there are some Longhorn fans who longed to go to LSU. They literally made plans, and I was part of that group, had made plans to go to Baton Rouge in the return trip after Joe Burrow and company came down to Texas, 3rd and 17, and were able to beat Texas. And then COVID hit, and our lives changed forever after COVID hit. And we forgot about that return trip, and then of course we know the rest of it. And so Texas really never got that chance to. And I've heard great things. I got family in Louisiana who've actually gone to LSU games, but I've heard great things about LSU tailgates, and just the first of all, the food is fantastic. I heard you know how to cook them up Cajun style, but just they're very welcoming though. Like they're friendlier than you think. Like we know there are some hostile areas. You go to Arkansas, that's your rival. That's going to be kind of hostile. From what I heard, LSU is very welcoming. And when they came to Austin, I got like 3 or 4 invitations. Like, hey, come tailgate with us. Come hang out with us. Like they're very friendly.
Yeah, I know when they were here in town working that tailgate, that there was tons of them, and they were thrilled and happy people, and there was no issues.
They're just a jovial group. Like they're just very, very fun loving, and I'm not saying food, I imagine, is really, really good down there. So that's the one I picked. But I bet Georgia's really good. If your program has been the premier program in the country for 3-4 years, like Georgia, you pick your tailgate game up. I mean, that's just your tailgate game has got to be on point. So I bet it's gotten so exponentially better in like the last 2 or 3 years. And then the other spot on there, would you have an Ole Miss? I've been to Ole Miss.
Ole Miss in Tennessee.
I've been to the Grove. The Grove is one of the most unique tailgate atmospheres in the country. It is fantastic. It is tremendous. I just don't like going to Mississippi very often. And every time I go to Mississippi, all of the stereotypes I have about Mississippi, they're always confirmed.
So there's every
time I go to Mississippi.
There's a movie about that, right?
Yes, and I've been there 3 times, and every time I go, one of those crazy instances happen when I'm like, is this real? Is this really happening? Oh, I'm in Mississippi. That's right. So it is really happening. So that's my only complaint about going to Ole Miss. But the tailgating atmosphere is fantastic there at the Grove. So go check that out at the Horn ATX. All right, let's get to the headlines here, the Horn headlines, and then we'll jam packed. We got to get to the CJ Stroud sound. We'll talk a little Texans on the show. We got to also get to this Nick Saban comment he made about CJ Baxter. Also, Nick Saban's comment about the biggest personnel issue that he sees for Texas football this upcoming season. Also, there's a couple of pieces of audio that I want to play that we haven't gotten to. So I'm hoping that we can fit that in at some point here in this hour. And we got your Rangers report that we don't want to forget about. And we'll have that at the end of this segment. So we're loaded, jam-packed. Glad you could stick with us. But first, let's get updated, let's get educated and informed on all the top stories today with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Los Angeles Clippers and Utah Jazz have agreed to a deal to send Russell Westbrook and a second-round pick swap and cash to the Jazz in exchange for Chris Dunn, who will receive a new 3-year, $17 million deal with the Clippers. Westbrook is expected to be waived by the Jazz, and they will sign with the Denver Nuggets, who have been looking to add backcourt and bench depth in the offseason. Westbrook averaged a career low 11.1 points, 4.5 assists, and 22.5 minutes per game last season, but played some of his best defense of his career, ranking 4th in field goal percentage allowed. In the MLB, the Astros will begin the second half of the season with Hunter Brown taking the mound against the Seattle Mariners tonight. The Astros are currently 1 game behind Seattle for the lead in the AL West. The Mariners hold the head-to-head tiebreaker with a 5-2 advantage so far this season. And the Rangers begin their series with the Orioles tonight with Nathan Eovaldi getting the start. The big series for the Rangers as they wait for the return of Dane Dunning, Jacob deGrom, and Josh Young from injury. And as a series that could win to inspire the team to become buyers at the trade deadline. And a series loss could encourage management to sell at the deadline. The Rangers have won 7 of their last 10 before the break and hope to spark a second-half run reminiscent of last season. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. We appreciate those. Let's get right to this CJ Stroud sound. The Texans already in training camp. Everybody reported had their first practices earlier this week. And CJ Stroud is speaking with the media, and he's really comfortable speaking with the media. They love him. He loves the media too. And he was talking about how he could take his game to the next level. This is somebody who's considered right now in a lot of circles to be a top 10 quarterback after what was deemed the greatest rookie season for a quarterback in NFL history. How do you take your game to the next level? Here is what CJ Stroud had to say about that.
There's a ton of things. Most of the things, I really can say just like owning the offense more, operation, putting more on my plate. We just like run checks, protection checks, things like that. And really just like everything inside the field, X's and O's can always be better. You can always have better footwork. I want to definitely attack down the field more this year, and, press guys back. And if I also take what the defense gives me. If it's boring, if it's a boring play, just stay with the boring stuff and, just be efficient with that. So, those are all things I can get better at, and, I hope to do that.
That's that last part's really important. That means some veteran, probably DeMeco Ryans, has told him that expect your NFL experience now to be a bit boring. Because this is a guy that was used to stretching the field. And I gave you all the numbers that, this guy was a low risk, high reward quarterback in terms of his ability to stretch the field vertically. And he was doing it as well, if not better than any quarterback in the league with the vertical shots downfield that he was taking. Gave you those stats earlier. Well, I got, like I pointed out, the natural evolutionary adaptation of the defenses for big armed, young, high achieving quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen has been, we're going to put an umbrella over this defense. We're going to put 2 deep safeties back and take away your vertical shots downfield and your vertical plays down the field. And we're going to force you to exercise patience and be able to march your way down the field via check downs, via underneath routes, underneath crossers, and just a really, boring style of play. And and I've said this earlier, if you watch Patrick Mahomes play recently, you realize that Patrick Mahomes is playing a really boring brand of football. And you're right. It is boring because essentially the opposing offenses have forced him to play a brand of dink and dunk football and exercise patience at all costs because they've taken away his vertical routes. If you go look at it, Patrick Mahomes last season averaged a career low 6.5 air yards per target. 30% of his targets are behind the line of scrimmage. He averaged less than 7 yards. Was the average touchdown pass for him was less than 7 yards. He's not throwing it downfield anymore. It's a very boring offense because he's got to exercise a lot of patience, and that's what C.J. Stroud's talking about. Is that transformation for him? Take what the defense is giving you. Is it going to seem boring? Yes, it's going to seem very boring to him. To go through all your progressions and go check down, all my progressions underneath route, all my progressions hitch route, all my progressions. All right, check down again. And you're like, what the hell? When am I going to get to stretch it vertically like he loves to do? When the defense allows you to. If they're going to give you that 5 to 7 yards on the check down, take the 5 to 7 yards. Take it every time. And that's why he's saying it's going to be boring. It is. But
I do like that he says right before the boring too, he says, I want to throw it downfield more and take what's given to me.
Good for us, a good catch. You're right. Because he probably said it to Coach Ryan. Coach Ryan was like, yeah, but you're going to take what the defense give you, right? Yeah.
It's like a kid who's just like, and then for Christmas, and then what I'm thankful for on Thanksgiving is I'm thankful for all my toys, my presents, and the family just looks at you and go, and my family and school and books.
Oh, that's a great catch. You're right. I do remember that's exactly how the sequence went too. Yeah, because he's been told over and over again. Yeah, you're just studying it. The best indicator or predictor of future events and future behavior is to study past events and past behavior. They studied the same thing that I've studied and went, yeah, man. Just so you know, they're gonna put the top over the defense. You're not chunking it vertically downfield. He still may try early on, and he'll pay the price early on, and then he'll take what the defense is giving him. But I think that's growth, guys. That's all that signal to me was growth. He was also asked about other quarterbacks that he follows and admires around the NFL that he watches, and also about the additions that they have made, because he's going to be one of the quarterbacks that other quarterbacks are watching too because of his game. Here's what C.J. Stroud had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I watch a little bit of everybody around the league. You know, I watch Buffalo, I watch the Rams, I watch Minnesota, I watch Kansas City. Lions are a great team to watch offensively. So I learn from everybody. But yeah, I mean, Steph is somebody who definitely can open up your playbook, but we have all of those guys around. He'll say that too, you know. So it's five-headed monster, you know. So it's definitely super dope to have, you know, just a bunch of options.
Five-headed monster. So I'm assuming the five-headed Hydra here, the five-headed monster, is going to be Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz. That's your five-headed.
That would be my guess too.
Monster. Yep.
It seems like what it would be the five-headed monster of.
Super dope.
The super dope five-headed monster.
That's got to be on a t-shirt too.
Super dope.
Super dope. Yeah, just super dope. Super dope. I'd never heard that term. Super dope. Like, okay. Super dope. Yeah, man. CJ Stroud, you can tell why he's a media darling. There's no doubt about that. Okay, let's hear from Peyton Manning. Actually, Peyton Manning was on the Pat McAfee show recently. And he was asked about, he was talking about the Colts mostly. And then he started talking about who that division goes through Houston. And then, of course, started getting into a conversation about CJ Stroud. And then it revealed something, obviously way too late after the fact, something that bothered him personally about CJ Stroud's draft process that came back to the Manning family. We talked about this earlier in the show. Remember, he didn't show up for one of the dates for the Manning Passing Academy when they had all the pros there, and he's supposed to come there and be a mentor and be one of the guests at the camp, and he didn't show up. And then all the rumors and all the different, I guess different allegations and reasons as to why he wasn't there just kind of took off, and we never got anything substantiated. We really never found out why. It's just stuff thrown out there, part of the negative narrative that was building against him in the draft process. Well, listen to Peyton Manning, because Peyton Manning clears it up. Like I said, way too late after the fact, but he clears that up later on in here, talking about his opinion of CJ Stroud.
like I think about my rookie year, Pat. Like, I kind of say it's so hard as a rookie, all these interceptions. CJ Stroud says it's not that hard. He went out and dominated as a rookie. So I think you're right. I think that division kind of goes through Houston, and obviously, D'Amico, look, they have a target on their backs, right? Everybody knows who they are. They're not sneaking up on anybody, but they're going to answer that challenge. But it's a great division. But like, I'm a big fan of Stroud. I got to know him. I coached him at the Pro Bowl this year, Pat. Humble guy, hard worker, super talented. Just nice to, my son, nice to all the fans there. I didn't get to know him. He didn't come to our football camp, Pat. He had a team commitment that he honored, and I kind of felt bad. He kind of got criticized for not coming to the camp. NFL people kind of said, hey, you were supposed to go, you didn't go, and I kind of missed that. I probably could have come out and clarified that, hey, he never committed to come. It was all good. So I actually apologized to him recently about kind of the criticism he had to face from NFL teams in his combine interviews. That was ridiculous, but big fan of him. So, yeah, look, I'm all on the Colts bandwagon, but we got to do something about these other teams in the AFC South.
All right, there you go. So cleared it up there that CJ Stroud had something that was a conflict that was already planned. So it wasn't that he, decided to no-show on the Manning Passing Academy. He just had something going on.
They told him he couldn't be there. He told him the thing. It is funny because he's like, I probably could have cleared that up. And you're like, just say the truth. The Colts had the 4th pick. And maybe you were asked not to clear that up, or maybe you did. The Colts had the 4th pick. Thought maybe if he slides to 4, that's not the worst thing in the world. We need a quarterback. I know they're happy with Anthony Richardson. I know they're happy, but they had the 4th pick. I'm sure they would have loved to have CJ Stroud at 4. Or if he fell to 3, they might have tried to trade with Cardinals to move up 1 to go get him there.
Well, I know somebody wanted CJ Stroud to slide.
We know that. I'm sure a lot of people wanted CJ Stroud to slide.
We just say somebody put together a calculated, premeditated, almost plan to have him slide. Whether you're talking about the cognition test and the way that it was reported and demanding passing academy, you just talked about, like, why didn't they just clear that up? Why wasn't that just thrown out there? Like, oh no, he had a conflict and he informed the Manning and everything was fine. Nope. It was out there forever that he was a no-show and what happened to him. And it's like, well, we know what happened to him. So somebody was out there, man. Somebody was out there trying to drop this man's draft stock. And we still don't know exactly what it was. It could have been Houston.
It could have
been. It'd have easily been Houston. Why wouldn't they? It turns out he's this good. Turns out there might have been a lot of teams out there like, no, man, this dude's legit. We want this stock to drop. Like, we want him.
Let him fall.
Let him fall to us. Yeah. Or they want Bryce Young. Let him have Bryce Young. It's all good.
Which is still why when they say, when they drafted CJ and then they draft Will Anderson, we're like, well, you can't draft Will Anderson and then CJ Stroud, because if you draft Will Anderson first, then the trade value for that next pick is way higher than, because then there's going to be teams like, no, Arizona, I'll give you X, X, and X to get CJ Stroud. So you have to take him because the trade value is just going to be higher.
Yep. And the priority, it was a brilliant draft move and maneuvering of the draft process by Nick Caserio. That turns out how good both of them were and how good both of them will be. That's going to go down in history as one of the savviest moves by a GM ever, especially if they can turn it into a championship. But speaking of Will Anderson, he's also focused on taking his game to the next level, and part of that is transforming his body. Listen to Will Anderson talk about how he's bulked up a little bit.
Yeah, I think last year I was like 248, and about the time we got to like the Ravens game, I was just like, I just can't last. Like, I feel like I was getting tossed around, so I kind of bulked up a little this offseason, tried to keep my speed. Well, I did keep my speed, so I'm like 263 now. I feel good. Some people still say I want to look big, so I appreciate you for that.
All right, there you go. Will Anderson up 15 pounds. Said he needed some extra weight. He was getting, bullied around toward the end of the season. I think he hit a rookie wall probably too. Rookie wall happens. I mean, that's that extra 17 game, and you got the playoffs there too. So he probably hit a rookie wall, and he's a little bit light. So he'll have more armor on. He said he kept his speed, and in addition to that, I think he'll be, he'll be more acclimated, right, to that type of punishment in that many games. Got to get
Yeah,
used to that.
and they got him a
your
little
rookie.
bit more help there on the defensive line on the other side,
Very
and
true.
bring
Yeah.
just to make it so you were not. And we know Hughes is a good player, but Hughes is now the backup there.
Mhm.
And so yeah, you bring it in Autry and everybody else. It's going to be that'll help out a lot to have some other people that the defense can't kind of just hone in on you every single play. Where I think at the end of last year he was getting, you get double him, and there wasn't a lot of other help.
No, you're right about that. It's a good point. Bringing in Daniil Hunter and those other guys. Okay, let's and then we'll get into Rod's rant on the other side. Next segment, we'll do Rod's rant. That'll be Nick Saban's comments on C.J. Baxter, also on the biggest personnel issue for Texas. A couple other clips from SEC Media Days that I want to get into as well on the other side. But first, let's hit the Rangers report before we get to the break.
The Rangers Report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer.
All right. Thank you to Texas Truck and Trailer for sponsoring the Rangers Report. Rangers will be in action starting up their series tonight. Josh Young and Evan Carter, they were at the workout Thursday at the Gilf. And some people said they were doing baseball-related things. Their returns right now to the lineup still are up in the air, still unknown. There's no word on when they will start their rehab assignments. But just them being out there and engaging in baseball activities is at least a good sign. Young said that he took front flips Thursday without any pain in his right wrist that was broken April 1st. So he will progress to hitting off a machine at some point, then batting practice, then live batting practice, and then comes a rehab assignment. So that's kind of his timetable. The Rangers tonight start their series against the Orioles. Remember, the Rangers have about 13 games or so until the trade deadline. And there's some people believe that the Rangers should be buyers. Some people believe that the Rangers should be sellers. Some people believe the Rangers should stand pat and do nothing. So it'll be interesting to see how the Rangers approach the trade deadline that's coming up. And, looking at the rotation this weekend, you have on the mound, Nathan Eovaldi will start tonight. Max Scherzer is scheduled to start Saturday. And left-hander Andrew Heaney is expected to start Sunday in the series finale against the Orioles. So, and back those the same, I think, group. Remember, Heaney, Eovaldi, and Scherzer started the final 3 games before the All-Star break too. So they'll start the games tonight.
No,
versus
it's going to be interesting because if you're able to beat one of the best teams in the AL this season, one of the best records in the AL, you're able to beat them, push yourselves closer to 500. If you get a series win, you could be, if you just win 2 out of 3, you push yourselves back up another game closer. And if you go in all 3 or 3 games closer to 500, and that would be huge because then you play the White Sox, you could be above 500 real easy. But your next series with the White Sox or the Rangers, they're not a very good team. They're a 27-win team right now. So you could be able to go ahead and get that win. That would be a big piece. But I think the reality is if you get swept in this series and are now 8 games or 7 games behind 500, 8 games behind 500, that starts to push you into the world of, okay, we're not going to be above 500 before the trade deadline because you go the White Sox, then you have the Blue Jays who are also in that conversation of are they buyers or sellers? A lot of conversation around Vlad Guerrero and Bo Bichette if they're going to trade them. So we don't know. That could be one if they make a move where they're going to go buyers or sellers. And then you play the Cardinals who are just above 500 as well. It's a run right there that's going to decide pretty much are you going to do it? And they could stand pat, but we know the Kirby who just went to the All-Star game, he could be he's a reliever. You could get some prospects for him. Marcus Simeon's a name I've heard thrown around a few times as a 34-year-old that maybe, okay, we'll move on from him and try and bring some of these young guys up, try and get some more talent in. But it'll be interesting. This is a big series because if you win it, it feels like they may push all in. It's also, you got to remember, they're still kind of dealing with the money factor of the regional sports networks that a lot of teams are dealing with, that the fact that all these companies basically went bankrupt and they were a cash flow for these teams and it just dropped off completely, that they may decide, let's save some money this year. And then once we figure out TV revenues going forward, we can go make our moves. But we don't necessarily want to spend all of our money now. We can go get rid of some of these guys, get rid of some of the salary. This is it. It's a big series against the Orioles.
That's a great point there, Patrick. It could determine what they do at the trade deadline based on how they finish this series. They are within 5 games of first place in the American League West. They 46-50 record. And like you said, big series from coming up. How about this? I got this little stat and factoid doing some research for our Rangers report. In 2023, at this point in the season, right after the All-Star break, the Rangers slash 263, 337, and 452. They were first in the American League in runs, hits, homers, walks, average, OBP, slugging, and OPS, and they were second in doubles at the time. Damn, that was this time last year. Well, this year the Rangers have slashed 241, 311, 382, and they are 8th in the American League in runs, 7th in hits, 14th in doubles, 9th in homers, 6th in walks, 8th in average, 7th in OBP, and 10th in slugging, and 8th in OPS. Big difference.
Yes.
Huge. As President Trump would say, huge. All right. There you go. That's the Rangers report brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer.
The Rangers Report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer, your premier truck accessory dealer.
All right, we come back. We'll dive into the comments Saban made about Texas' biggest personnel issue and the compliment that he paid C.J. Baxter, which is one of the best I've heard any player paid by Nick Saban ever. So we'll get into that, and we'll also get into the other pieces of audio that we haven't played yet. We'll play those for you, too, on the other side and wrap up SEC Media Days conversation right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast right here on the Horn. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. Got a couple of items that I want to hit here. Nick Saban, he's been doing a great job, by the way. Nick Saban's killing it as an analyst. I don't think anybody doubted that he would. But he recently made two. Well, he recently made a lot of comments about Texas, but two that caught my eye. Really did. Okay, the first one here that I want to get into is Nick Saban paying a huge compliment to CJ Baxter at the running back position. And we know that CJ Baxter last year against Alabama, he didn't do much. I think he ran for 31 yards. He didn't really find his groove until later on in the season, had that breakout game versus Iowa State, 117 yards, had that really good game versus Kansas State, 90 yards in that game. So, I mean, he had his breakout performance later, not at Alabama, but listen to what Nick Saban says about the young running back. He said, I'm going to alleviate. He was actually talking about red zone offense, I believe. And we've talked about red zone offense ad nauseum here on this station. We've been talking about it yesterday. And Sark admitting that he came up with the same theory about their struggles in the red zone that I did, which is post Bijan Rojo hangover and identity issues related to the play caller. So I'm glad Sark and I, great minds think alike. So they was asking, I believe, about the red zone. And here's what Nick Saban had to say. He said, I'm going to alleviate some of your concerns because I know you've got 7 wideouts that all can play. He's actually talking to Sark here. I know you've got 3 quarterbacks that all can play. Baxter was the best running back I saw of any team. All right. So you're going to be able to run the ball. If you can run it, you can always do better in the red zone. He said, I'm just going to put on a coaching clinic right now. Going back to his comment though about Baxter was the best running back I saw of any team. All right. So you're going to be able to run the ball. If you can run it, you can always do better in the red zone. I'm just going to do a little coaching clinic here just in case. I'll say this. I think Baxter's going to be a 1,000-yard back next season. And that is a hell of a compliment that Nick Saban paid him. I haven't even looked at the schedule from last season to see, the running backs that he played and how many of them are better or on par with Cedric Baxter. But either way, Nick Saban is a big fan. 2 things. Texas needs to use more of the pony package. The 2-back set is their most explosive, most efficient, and their most effective personnel grouping, period. 11 out of 11, 12 out of the big O-line, big 11, big 12 package, 6-0 line. It is easily far and away. Whether you're talking about yards per carry, yards per play, whether you're talking about yards per attempt, explosive play rate, you name it, pony package trumps every other personnel grouping. They're going to use more of that with CJ Baxter and with Jaden Blue. That's going to help CJ Baxter become more of a weapon. Also, I think when you start talking about the running back position overall, and they're talking about the red zone here, one of my theories to try to fix Texas red zone issues is they should play more of the pony package in the red zone. And my thought process is simply looking at the best teams in the NFL at touchdown percentage in the red zone, where Texas was so bad last year, 120th in the country in touchdown percentage in the red zone. And the post Bijan Rojo hangover is why. So you lost 2 running backs who inspired you to use the pony package, a 2 tailback set. And since losing those 2 running backs, you've admitted that's a big reason why, if not the biggest reason, why you have an identity crisis in the red zone and why you're so ineffective in the red zone. Okay, now if that's the case, and then also I figured out that if you look at teams in the last 4 years to be top 10 in touchdown percentage in the red zone in the NFL, and who was in the top 10 the most, the teams that I found that were in the top 10 the most, I actually did this last night because I had some time on my hands, which is usually not the case. San Fran was in the top 4, 3 out of the last 4 years. Detroit, 3 out of the last 4 years. Miami, 2 out of the last 2 years. That's a Mike McDaniel thing. Buffalo, 3 out of the last 4 years. And Philly, 3 out of the last 4 years. Those are the only teams that were top 10 in touchdown percentage in the red zone in the last, multiple times, I should say, in the last 4 years. 2 of the teams have dual threat quarterbacks, Buffalo and Philly. That's why they have a huge advantage. Dual threat quarterbacks give you a huge advantage in the red zone, so +1 in the running game. that the defense just can't account for. Don't have the time to. Play breaks down. You got to defend 3-4 different plays in one with a dual threat quarterback, and they can always scamper for those extra yards. If you devote a spy on that quarterback, then you lose that guy in the passing game, lose him as a run defender. It can make your life hell. So eliminate those because Sark does not have a dual threat quarterback. Then you have Detroit. Detroit kind of stands out. They're kind of an outlier here. So you can look at Detroit and study them. They don't have a dual threat quarterback. They just have a brilliant play caller in Ben Johnson. The two that share, in my opinion, connective tissue with Sark's offense, of course, are the two Shanahan offenses, San Fran and Miami. And there's a lot of connective tissue. Mike McDaniel has openly talked about how he studied Tua's best plays in college. Well, a lot of those were Sark plays in college, Sark as the play caller. So he has studied Sark's offense and has actually utilized a lot of principles that Sark uses in the NFL to try to maximize Tua. And then there's San Fran, where we know a lot of connective tissue exists between Kyle Shanahan's offense, and Sark, because Sark was trying to transition that Atlanta offense after Shannon left in 2016, and he became the play caller in 2017, trying to transition it without changing too much because it was the best offense in the league at the time with a MVP quarterback and Julio Jones, one of the best receivers in the game. So he actually translated a lot of his offense into the McShanahan offense, if you will, and hybridized a lot of the concepts together. So there are a lot of conceptual signatures in Sark's offense right now that came from him studying Shanahan's offense. So there's already connective tissue there. Like I said, Detroit, that's kind of outside of the football theory tree that I'm looking at. I'm looking at, things that are connecting these offenses together so that Sark can see things that easily translate to his offense. And San Fran and Miami, two of the best red zone offenses in the NFL the last 4 years. And Sark already knows the offense. Thing that makes them, I think, unique is that they use two tailback sets and 21 personnel, because the 49ers use Kyle Juszczyk, a modern age fullback. But that is something that Sark could use, and that would be the pony package. And that would involve Cedric Baxter. And I think it could end up helping you remedy your red zone issues. Okay. The other comment that I wanted to get to here was, Nick Saban talking about what he thinks is the biggest personnel weakness for Texas. And it's something that I've talked about on this show openly. You guys have heard me bring this up several times on the show. The cornerback spot opposite of Malik Muhammad. And here's what Nick Saban had to say. He said, they have a lot of components in place that you need to navigate the kind of season that you're going to play in the SEC. First of all, they got a really strong roster. They have lots of depth at positions, at most positions. Probably the only question on their team about players is who's going to be the other corner. That's the only question you have on their whole team. He went on to say, it's only going to be that one question because corners do put the limitation on what you can do on defense. If you don't have good corners, you can't play a lot of man-to-man. You got to play soft. Sometimes you can't get off the field on third down because you can't play man-to-man. You got to give up big plays because you're not good at the corner position. If that thing comes through, that's why I picked these guys to be one of the best teams in the league. Probably them and Georgia are the two best teams I saw this spring. All right, so there you go. And I've said it before, that cornerback spot opposite Malik Muhammad. And here are the things I think are going to determine who wins that spot, Javion Cole or Gavin Holmes. Because I think Javion Cole plays better off coverage. Off zone coverage, he's better. He doesn't have a lot of reps in man. Less than 15% of his reps that I got a chance to observe at the last season were in man coverage. So he played a lot of zone, played a lot of off, but he's really good. So whoever plays better off zone coverage, whoever plays better off man coverage, and who plays better press man coverage, those are the three factors I think that are going to determine that, who wins that job. And I think Javion Cole has the advantage right now that he plays better off zone coverage. But who's going to play better press man? I'm not sure. It could be Gavin Holmes that has the advantage there over a Javion Cole, who's a little bit smaller and is very adept at playing off coverage. So those are the three factors, and I'm not sure where each of them stand right now. Here's the contingency plan. If it doesn't work out and you don't trust Javion Cole and you don't trust Gavin Holmes to get the job done and their weaknesses, and they never improve, which I think by midseason, you'll be fine at corner with either one of those guys or a healthy rotation of both of those guys. But remember, you can always move Jahdae Barron out to corner. And Jahdae Barron has talked about there being multiple guys on the team now that are being cross-trained at nickel and at other positions, nickel and safety, nickel and corner. So when you move him out to corner and you have him and Malik Muhammad at corner, so you have a damn good cornerback duo. You can always move Makuba down to nickel. Dabo Swinney said he played every position in at Clemson, including nickel safety, and corner. Or if you really like Jalen Gilbo, which I've heard Sark mention Jalen Gilbo several times unsolicited, if you like Jalen Gilbo that much, then you can play Jalen Gilbo at the nickel, and then you could move Jahdae Barron out to corner. So you got multiple options at nickel, and you trust that you have depth at safety with Taft Daddy, who started for you at one point, and with Derek Williams, who's a star in the making. So you have options at that cornerback. They may be emergency contingency plans, but there are options for you at that cornerback position. So Nick Saban's concerned about it as I was as well. You guys have heard me voice that concern to you over the last couple of months. But I think they got the first option, which is Gavin Holmes and Javion Cole. The second option is Jahdae Barron goes out there, and who takes Jahdae Barron's spot at nickel if you move him out there? Right now, my first guess would be Makuba. And then after Makuba, maybe it's Jalen Gilbo, but it depends on how much they trust their safety depth there. All right, there you go. That's Nick Saban's comments on Texas about the Texas defense and their personnel issues, but also a nice compliment that he paid to CJ Baxter. We come back. We'll play Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or based on the familiarity of the voice, we have to identify who said that. We'll do that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a 512 Friday. That's when my man Patrick plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Superphonicos, and they're playing their album release Saturday at the Continental Club.
Nice, like that. And you can always sound cool in front of all your friends. All you got to do is listen to 512 Fridays right here on the Horn. All right, thanks to Patrick for all he does. We appreciate all of his effort. Also, check out the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. That's already posted there on the X account at the Horn ATX. Pretty simple question. Which road tailgate would you most like to attend in the SEC? LSU right now leading the vote with 48% of the vote right now. Ole Miss is second with 35% of the vote. All right. Before we get out of here, we got to play Who Said That? That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio, and based on the context clues and based on the familiarity of the voice, hopefully you can recall and identify who said that.
Okay. So me, for one, starting off to wear 23 is to honor a friend that passed away, Todrick Fowler. We called him Trolley. He passed away in Austin, Texas, but that was something to do for him, and I kind of felt me deciding to come back and things like that. It kind of felt like a point, like I think I did a lot and to honor him, to honor 23 and like that for him and stuff like that. And 7 is something I always wanted to do. I had to ask Huff and Coach Sark for their permission, and they granted my that permission. They let me wear 7, but just kind of being able to wear 7, it means a lot to me. Just growing up watching Michael Huff's highlights and stuff like that, I never was able to. I don't remember. I was so young to watch the live game of Michael Huff at UT, but being able to watch the highlights and to look at him and wanting to do better than him in that number. When he gave me the number, I told him I wanted to do better. I'm always striving for greatness. And it's so hard to do better in a number that somebody was so great in. But I'm up for the challenge, and I know it's going to push me to be the best version of myself on and off the field. So.
All right. That's Jahdae Barron, the glue, as Sark called him there at SEC Media Days, wearing Michael Huff's number now. That's a lot of expectations. I mean, you made me talk. You're about a guy that's on the Mount Rushmore of DBU here in Texas, and now Jahdae Barron saying he wants to push himself to be that great. If he's that great, that Texas defense is gonna be damn good. Hell, if he's half the player that Michael Huff is, that defense is gonna be damn good.
Yeah, I thought Texas fans would appreciate the fact that he's got some respect for Huff and that he's seen it. And, we don't always know that these young kids have seen and watch the film on some of the Texas greats and some of those players. So it was cool to see him talking about Huff. And we know Huff's still around the program too.
Oh yeah.
But very cool to have him talk about that and ask for the permission to have the number and be wearing it this season. So it'll be cool to see him go out there and try and live up to the expectations now.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's a versatile defender, and that 2022 season, I'm telling you, it was one of the greatest seasons for a defensive back in Texas football history. In 2023, he was good, just didn't make as many impactful splash plays. But the word on the street was he wasn't completely healthy the entire season. We know that because he missed the first half of the U of H game, but came back to save his team and get them a win in a game they probably should have lost because he came out there and made a game-saving play even while he was hurt. So I don't know. I think if he's healthy, and I think that's why they didn't want him to play in the spring. Sark said we want him to get completely healthy because they know his upside is tremendous if he is completely healthy. All right, Patrick, thank you for everything you do, brother. Thank you for doing a great job this week, as always. Thank all you guys out there for joining us. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We're talking about it right here on the Rodcast, so we appreciate all of you guys. Remember, have a great weekend. We love you. And until next time, same place, hook 'em and peace.